welcome. I'd like to open the meeting at 9:12 a.m. Thank you for your attendance. I'd like to move a leave of absence be granted for Councillor McMullen and Councillor Edwards. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Burkett. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? That's 7-0.
Could I just ask something or say something before we start?
Yep, please go ahead.
I have a bit of a drama with the agendas.
Right.
Like, I thought the deal was that, we get them 10 days early so that we can all read them and whatever. Well, I got mine on Tuesday morning because we didn't get home from Injune till 8:30 on Monday night. So I've had one day to do 18 items, agenda items. There's 18 in the normal and there's 18 in the late. I just don't think it's just not good. I thought we were trying to tighten up the late.
Can I make an observation, Mr. Mayor?
Please.
So, Councillor, you remember in June meeting, I put a draft policy to council,
Yes.
and part of that policy was that we would just have one agenda close and make it a hard close.
Yes.
And that would be a compromise between a very early agenda and this, but that has been deferred until after I've gone.
I just think it's a bit rough, honestly. I mean, I know majority rules and you all decided that this is how it was going, but I just felt really under the pump yesterday all day trying to get through what I have to know today.
Yeah, and the problem is that the agenda is so early that the officers haven't even got the action items from the last meeting. So the officers are in an incredibly stressful position trying to get an agenda so far out from the next meeting when we haven't finished the last cycle, and then also having to then find out about items that need to go to today's meeting. Yeah. So it's really hard.
Yeah, I'm just letting you know that I'm concerned with the way it's going.
Yeah, the thing that I'd say is that councillors don't decide when reports come in. It's very unusual to have the late bigger than the standard agenda, and that hasn't been the standard approach. We're also getting the minutes very late. They're coming out very late, so there's multiple things.
Mayor, could I just clarify that the minutes are within 10 days of the under legislation? We try and get them out sooner than that.
Yeah.
However, that's not always possible if we have special meetings in the middle of that and other complexities. So
no, but
they're not coming out very late.
Compared to what I've seen in the earlier times, they're coming out much later than that because, and I believe that when the minutes come out
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, a decision on how is a question about the timing of the agenda
relevant
to your comments?
So the comments are that when the minutes come out, then the staff can action them, and from my memory I used to see is that we'd get them in within a few days of the meeting, and now I think they were on Saturday before the next meeting, so they are later than much later than what I remember. And as far as getting the reports in, only a few weeks ago I think we were going to print the agenda on Fridays for the late, but this time it was later, so so righto, we'll get onto the agenda. We do declarations of conflict of interest as we go, I think. So then we're on to 8.1. Item 8.1, community drought support, reallocation of funds. Do we have a mover? Oh, sorry, the minutes. Yes, we should be doing them. Good point. Confirmation of minutes of the ordinary meeting on the 10th of November. Do we have to move on those? Councillor Guthrie.
I'd like to move that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of the 10th of November 2021 be confirmed.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to them? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Okay, if there's no other minutes, we're going to move on to item 8.1, Community Drought Support Reallocation of Funds.
I have a conflict of interest, Mr. Mayor.
Please go ahead.
Sorry, Michelle. I'd like to declare a conflict of interest on item number 8.1. The description is Community Drought Support Reallocation of Funds. Declaring councillor is myself. I'm happy to send this to you. Yep. Declaring councillor is myself. Party with interest is Stephen Hancock as the president of the Mitchell Show Society. Particulars of interest is Steve's the president of the Mitchell Show Society and he is referenced in the report. Type of conflict is declarable conflict of interest and the action is I'll leave the room or the matter is discussed and voted on.
Okay, any other conflicts, councillors? Okay, righto, well, thank you, councillor Hancock. Okay, notice of repeal or amendment or of resolution 8.1. Do we have any questions or a mover?
Oh, happy to move.
Can I, have you seen the report,
This one,
Councillor Ladbrook?
I haven't, no. Well, I've looked at it, but I didn't see anything there.
Am I missing something?
So there is Roma
Talks about
Show
the
in
Roma
this one.
Show.
Show
It's
Society.
in the resolution.
Yep, I see that there.
Did you want to just do your standard declaration?
Yep. You right? Yep. I have a conflict with item number 8.1. The report is Community Drought Support Reallocation of Funds. The particulars of interest, my wife is president of the Roma Show Society. The type of conflict, declarable conflict of interest, and the action I'll take is leave the room while the matter is being discussed and voted on.
Okay. Councillor Ladbrook's left the room. Okay, do we have no questions? So do we have a mover? Councillor Burkett, I believe.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor. So I just got to read out that recommendation line. I don't have to read the old resolution, do I? Just say recommendation in this.
The council amend.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah.
I'd like to move the council amend resolution number OM/09.2020/47 to read as follows: that council 1 authorise the chief executive officer, CEO or delegate to sign funding agreements as required. 2, offer the following community groups events an equal share of the successful funding amount offered: Roma Show, Christmas in the Park Mitchell, Wallumbilla Christmas Community Party, In June Races, Surat Christmas Carnival.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 5-0.
Oh, sorry, you were too.
Mr. Mayor, I thought I was meant to be in the room for the conflicts. I noticed that Councillor Ladbroke was out.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay.
We haven't moved on. Do you want to do the conflict again?
No, that's okay, Mr Mayor, I was just...
Righto, thank you. Okay, so moving on to 8.2, change of use to the Warroo Retirement Village funding application. Do we have a mover? Councillor Hancock.
Mr Mayor, I move that resolution number OM/01.2021/22 be amended to that one, a budget allocation of $10,000 be provided to Pinaroo Roma for a television campaign advertising vacancies at the Mount Hunt Retirement Village in Injune. 2, a budget allocation of $10,000 be provided to Warroo Retirement Village for capital and maintenance costs, including advertising vacancies. 3, the budget be funded from savings from WO 2882.2001 to .0301 local development salaries.
Okay, we have a seconder, Councillor Taylor. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it?
Yes, thanks, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to acknowledge that I think that this is a much better option for the Warroo Retirement Village to be able to ensure that they get some of this necessity capital and maintenance work done for their retirement village.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 7-0. Uh, 11.1, monthly financial report as at the 30th of October 2021. Do we have a mover? Councillor Taylor.
I'd like to move that the monthly financial report for the period ended the 31st of October 2021 be received and noted.
We have a seconder. Councillor Ladbroke. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? Councillor Hancock.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I'd just like to acknowledge, and Director Sharon's not here, but through you, Deputy CEO, if you could pass it on, I'd just like to thank her for such a comprehensive financial report. It was really comprehensive, really gives a great overview of how council's going, and I just encourage the community to go and have a look at it because it's a very comprehensive report, and I'd like to thank her for the work and time it takes to do that.
Okay. Does anyone else wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 7-0. Thank you. Page 28, item 11.2. Roma Saleyards approval to cease store and prime sales 2021. Councillor Burkett.
Conflicts.
Item 11.2, Roma Saleyards approval to cease store and prime sales 2021. Declaring councillors myself. The person with interest of related parties, my parents, Gary and Julie Burkett. Particulars of the interest, my parents, Gary and Julie Burkett. Buy and sell cattle from Roma Saleyards. It's a declarable conflict of interest. Although I have a declarable conflict of interest, I do believe a reasonable person could have a perception of bias because my interest, could have. The interest no greater than a significant proportion of other community members. Therefore, I will choose to remain in the meeting. However, I will respect the decision of the meeting.
I think you're right there, something's not quite right.
Yeah, it's something just...
A reasonable person
Reasonable.
could not have
Could not,
a
yeah, there's
perception of bias. I
not
think it should be could not.
Should not, could not, yeah.
Well, it's a bit different to normal.
Oh, because it was only about the closing date.
The
That's the
dates?
reason I went that. It wasn't to do with anything significant. Sorry? Oh, someone's got to
Yeah,
work out if they're
yeah.
gonna.
I'm happy to, if you're comfortable. I'll move.
It's more, Councillor Taylor, if you're comfortable,
I am comfortable, I think.
whatever.
Yeah, okay.
So you weren't obviously planning on selling cattle at those sales or?
It's only the
after that?
closing date. This is where it's,
Yeah, this is where it's tough, so,
because to me, the report's just about the closing date, not about any other sale date. Closing and starting, nothing about sale dates, that's why. But I'm happy to go with whatever.
well,
That's what I'll
I'm
put it.
happy
Anyway,
to
does
leave
someone
it.
have the wording to be able
The
to,
wording's here.
you got the
I'm
wording?
happy to go with the wording with, yeah, that's fine, okay. I'll move that it is in public interest that councillor Burkett participates and votes on agenda item 11.2 because a reasonable person would trust that the decision is made in the public interest.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 6-0. Do we have any other conflicts? Councillor Taylor?
I have a conflict on 11.2. Roma Saleyards approval to cease store and prime sales 2021. The declaring council is myself, Wendy Taylor. Laoshi Proprietary Limited, Peter and Wendy Taylor are directors of this company. Laoshi Proprietary Limited buy and sell cattle at the Roma Saleyards. It's a declarable conflict of interest and I'll leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on.
Do we have someone with the wording?
No.
She's leaving.
She's leaving.
I'm leaving the room.
No?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, does anyone else have any other conflicts? Councillor Hancock.
I'd like to declare a conflict on item 11.2, Roma Saleyards approval to cease store and prime sales 2021. Declaring councillor is myself. Person with the interest is GL and JM Hancock, my husband and myself. Hancock Pastoral Company, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, and my husband and myself. Particulars of interest, our entities buy and sell cattle at the Roma Saleyards. Type of conflict is declarable conflict of interest. Action will be that I will leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on.
Okay. Does anyone else have any conflicts?
I'd like to declare a conflict for 11.2. Roma Saleyards approval to cease store and prime sales 2021. The declaring councillor is myself, Councillor Julie Guthrie, and I, as well as my husband Ross and my son Nick, are partners in Guthrie Pastoral Group. The particulars of the interest is that I'm part of this entity that buys and sells cattle at the Roma Saleyards through our nominated agent, PJH Livestock and Property, who are mentioned as the organisation to which this report applies to. It's a declarable conflict of interest and I would like to leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on.
Okay, is there any other conflicts? Okay, so if the people leave the room that are leaving the room. Okay, we don't have a quorum. Righto, so there's nothing else to do there. We'll have to bring everyone back in the room then.
Didn't even get a cup of tea.
Okay, we didn't have a quorum. So does anyone want to move anything on this one?
I haven't got. I'm sure you can't find the words, can you? When we don't have a quorum, I just can't find it quickly in the minutes.
We might just need to, may I suggest we adjourn because I think we need to
Sure,
find.
okay, we'll adjourn and be back soon. We're back on again. Councillor O'Neill.
I move that in accordance with section 150 EU 2A of the Local Government Act 2009, the council delegate deciding the matter of Roma Saleyards approval to cease store and prime sales 2021 to the Chief Executive Officer in accordance with section 2571B.
Okay. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Burkett. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 7-0. Okay, moving on.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I just have a question.
Sure.
When that happens, like normally when a resolution happens, we get to read that in the minutes, like what happens, like, you know, when we're doing this and we're diverting, you know, because we don't have a quorum, how do we know what the outcome might be or the decision, like how, I'm just not sure about.
Yeah, so,
Do you understand the question? Yeah, it's just wondering.
yeah, we'll provide an update, because in some cases, I've identified the need to consult a little bit more broadly before making some decisions. So we're going to use the opportunity of having the new local area directors in place. And we've got a new local area director for Roma that's just commenced. So one of his first tasks will be to consult with some of the users of the Saleyards on a number of decisions. So given the high profile and important nature of the Saleyards, it's best that some broader views are provided as an input into that decision making.
Sure, and just as
And then we'll communicate the
yeah,
outcome
you know,
back to
sometimes
council.
those resolutions when we don't have a quorum,
Yeah.
you don't actually know what the outcome is, whereas because it's not part of our minutes, so that'd be
So
great.
once
Thank
those
you.
Consultation processes are initiated, and it was appropriate with a new person coming on board that person lead that.
Thank
and
you.
Yeah, the outcome will be just informally communicated back to you.
Thank you.
Item 11.2, 2022 Ordinary Council Meeting Schedule. Do we have a mover? Sorry, 11.3, I should have said. Councillor O'Neill.
I move the council, 1, continue to hold its ordinary meetings on the 2nd and 4th Wednesday of each month, commencing at 9 a.m, except for January, when a single meeting will be held on Tuesday, the 25th of January 2022. Hold ordinary meetings in the council chambers, Ernest Brock Room if applicable, for the months of January through to August 2022, except for the first meeting in February, which will be held in Mitchell, as per resolution number OM/04.2021/09. 3, adopt the 2022 ordinary meeting schedule from January to August 2022 as presented and attached to the officer's report. And 4, consider the remainder of the meeting schedule locations in the months of September to December 2022 at a future meeting.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Burkett. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 7-0. Item 12.1, extension of register of pre-qualified suppliers for traffic management services. Do we have any questions or do we have a mover? Councillor Hancock.
I move that Council 1 approve the extension of the register of pre-qualified suppliers for traffic management services, setting the new end date to 30 November 2023. 2, approve the Chief Executive Officer or Delegate to update the deeds of agreement for an extension to 30 November 2023.
Righto, do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbroke, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 7-0. 12.2, request for participation in National Corrections Day 2022. Councillor Guthrie.
I'm happy to move that Council 1 note the email from the Roma Community Corrections requesting Council's support for the National Corrections Day. 2, support the National Corrections Day by amending the variable street tree lighting in McDowell Street, Roma, to display blue only on the 21st of January 2022. And 3, distribute a media release to inform the community of the reason behind the blue colour change in the tree lighting.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Taylor. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 7-0. Item 14.1, Wallumbilla Swimming Pool Management Agreement, option to renew. I would like to move that council approve. Actually, I might actually ask a question before I move that. In relation to the other pool in Surat, what time frame did we push that one to?
So with the, just going through, with the Surat contract, the contract would actually come to the end of her term. So we asked that the term be extended out until the end of this swimming season to allow the tender to be put out and to stop any kind of negative impact on continuity of swimming. With this Wallumbilla one, there is a current contract in place. So it's the contractor is just asking to exercise the option that's in her current contract.
But council has the ability not to do that if they wish. Is that correct?
That's right, it's through mutual agreement.
Yeah. So basically, if council decide not to extend it, can we then open that to negotiations about bringing in line with that other date for next, after the end of the swimming season?
So to clarify, Mr Mayor, so are you looking at not agreeing to the
3 years.
exercising the option?
Yeah.
And instead only doing some kind of negotiation so her contract ends at the end of the swimming season?
Yeah, correct, to bring them in line.
I mean, that's something I would prefer to get a little bit of legal advice on that before giving an opinion one way or another, being that there's still a couple of years left to go.
Righto. Well, I'd like to move that we lay this on the table to get legal advice about the options if council does not wish to renew and would like to offer in line with the end of the swimming season.
Can I just ask you a question, please? Yeah. If they have the option, if the agreement that they can have a 3-year option, you can't say no, can you?
I would have to check the wording. I think it may be by mutual agreement, but I will need to check the wording.
I think isn't it just the fact she's taking up her option?
It's generally fairly
Straightforward.
so
Straightforward. She's taking up her option. Yeah.
I would certainly caution council to say that we are very, very fortunate to have
What we've
someone
got.
operating that swimming pool, and council should be encouraging local business and local contractors to step forward in that particular case.
Well, I think you'll find you don't have a choice because she's taking up her option.
Well, I'm happy to
It's your
include
decision.
I've got a motion to lay it on the table, so happy to include in that finding out whether councillor Taylor's question is correct or not. And we'll find out whether council has a choice as well. Okay, I'll put that to the vote to lay it on the table for that information. All those in favour? All those against? 5-2 if I can call for a division. Item 14.2, delegation of funding under the Regional Remote Airport Security Awareness Program, RRAP. ASAP. Do we have any questions, or do we?
I don't know if everyone's met Jackson. I'd introduce yourself outside.
Okay, so
Oh, sorry, councillors. So yeah, Jackson's now been with us 4 months, Jack. Three, yeah.
Almost ready for long service leave.
So yeah, he's so those who haven't met Jackson there, he's been there and he's come in full of enthusiasm and he's been a pleasure to work with. I think Roma's liking him, I think he's liking Roma. So for those who haven't met Jackson, Jackson's has got experience in obviously the airports, Mackay, a number of years at Mackay, and obviously in Brisbane, more recently Brisbane Airport's been too. And Jackson had the 30 AROs under him at the Brisbane Airport. So yeah, so it's
What was that?
really
So,
good.
eight?
Airport reporting officers,
Oh.
AROs. We've got 3. Yeah, 30 there. So yeah, it's been really good actually. So fresh eyes and some good ideas too. So but Jack, I'll let you talk about this one. Obviously, there's been announcement in recent days that it's this report here, that they're preparing this report before the 10th. So we don't know what the implications of that is in terms of screening. We're seeking some advice on that, home and security. So Jack and I talked about this yesterday. The Feedlot laying it on the table to the next meeting, and hopefully the advice from Homeland Security, because we just don't know what our obligations are in terms of screening. So, yeah. Did I miss anything, Jack?
No, that's correct. I suppose just the intention of the funding is the Department of Home Affairs has initiated a number of changes to the regulations in terms of qualifications that security screens need to have. This funding is just purely to help security screening providers meet those new qualifications. The intent of the report was just to delegate that funding to the security screening provider, but with the announcement of Regional Express as a regulated group service provider, it may change our security screening requirements altogether. So that's something that we're working through at the moment. Sorry.
Got the green.
Yeah, I did too.
First
before. I did too before, mate. I did a big spiel then I forgot.
It's normally put on at the beginning, so it's all good.
So I'll just say all that again.
I think I need to say all mine again too.
Yeah.
okay, so Director Rob, are you asking for it to be laid on the table to the next meeting?
Yes, Mr Mayor, obviously, because I said that was prepared prior to the announcement of the local carrier. It may very well change. We think it probably will, but we're just confirming, obviously, what the security requirements are. So we lay it on the table till the next meeting. We'll know a little bit more. But we have put that request in. So
I'll move we lay this on the table to the next ordinary meeting.
Should be next meeting or future meeting? You're definitely going to answer back by the next.
perhaps, councillor, if you go future meeting, but I dare say we'll have something in the next couple of days.
It'll have to be at the next meeting, won't it?
Yeah.
We don't have a meeting until January, and the new provider will be in service then. So I'll move that we lay it on table to the next ordinary meeting of council.
All those in favour? 7-0. 14.3, Roma Rural Student Hostel Residence Bathroom Repairs.
I have a conflict of interest.
Please go ahead.
Ladies first, probably.
I'm first. After me?
That's fine, mate. Councillor Carl?
I had clerical interest on 14.3, which is the Roma Rural Student Hostel Residence Bathroom Repairs. The councillor is Wendy Taylor, which is myself. I'm a committee member for the hostel. Could you just move that up a bit, Michelle? And I have a prescribed conflict of interest, and I'll leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on.
That's right, I'll just do it there, Michelle, if you... So I too have a conflict of interest in this matter, Roma Rural Student Hostel Residence Bathroom Repairs. The particulars of the person with the interest is myself. The particulars of the interest is I'm the chair of the committee. The type of conflict is a prescribed conflict of interest, and the action I'll take is to leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted upon.
Okay, Councillor Guthrie.
I too have a conflict to declare in agenda item 14.3, Roma Rural Student Hostel Bathroom Repairs. the particulars of the interest is that I am a committee member on the Roma Rural Student Hostel. It's a prescribed conflict of interest, and I will choose to leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on.
Okay, we do not have a quorum, so if we can ask the councillors to come back in.
We'll need that wording again, Michelle. We'll need the wording again, please.
Not much gets done when there's not many officers.
The other thing is we could leave this till the next meeting or delegate it, depending.
It's pretty straightforward, Mayor, do you think?
I'd like to move this lay on the table till the next ordinary council meeting. To also request some financial information from the organisation. Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, I do. Sorry, Mr.
Please
Mayor.
go ahead.
I mean, I agree with laying on the table, but if I was a staff member, I'd be confused of what financial documents do you want from the Rome? Oh, we probably can't even talk about that actually. But
No, I'm just
but
putting.
it's a bit confusing that that's a bit confusing because I don't think that gives a direction to our staff members. I would have thought that it was a financial implication to our business, not getting that information from their business.
I was interested to get, well, normally we would, yeah, we'd normally get, anyway, we could probably deal with it separately. So what did I move then?
So I think, Mr. Mayor, if I can, it's not. I question the appropriateness of once there was no quorum to move to lay it on the table. That question should have been asked prior. What I think what you're trying to do, which is an option, is to just defer the matter to a later meeting.
Well, I am, but I was going to. It'll say they're not being dealt with. We don't have some info. That's all.
But you've triggered that after you knew there was no quorum, so that you should have raised that up front.
I was going to, if we had a quorum. So this is a way to get the information.
I've said my bit.
The
There's a provision in the Act that allows to do what you're trying to do, which is just simply to defer it when there is no quorum.
do we have the wording for that? Anyway, I'll just move to lay it on the table until the next ordinary meeting of council. All those in favour? All those against? Lost 3-4. Can I call for a division? Do we have any wording to defer it? So, yeah, do you know any wording?
Which wording are you wanting, Mr Mayor? Is this
I was
laying it on the
suggesting
table, or is this deferring because
Deferring.
we
We've
don't?
tried laying it on the table, it wasn't supported, so. now it's deferring.
Section 150 EU 2B.
Lost 3, 4.
I'll just.
I'm just repeating what the Mayor said, but- Mr Mayor, could you help the minute taker out, please?
Big one.
Could you just help the minute taker out with what you called the division?
the
No,
CEO's
what the division was that you called.
Oh, yeah, 3, 4. It was lost. 3,
Golda,
4.
Ladbroke and Burkett were 4 and the rest against.
Procedure of no quorum for deciding matter.
Long way around to
Because
get
of
to the
that,
same point.
local government must do one of the following. 2A, 2B, 2C. And B is decide by resolution to defer the matter to a later meeting,
All right, okay.
which is what councillor.
Okay, so we'll just read the top bit as well. Under section 150 EUP procedure, if there's no quorum for deciding the matter because of prescribed conflict of interest or declarable conflict of interest, the local government must do one of the following.
And one of the three options is decide by resolution to
Is-
defer the matter to a later meeting.
Yeah,
So your effect is the same, you're just doing it.
yeah, decide.
In accordance with the Act, which is what councillor O'Neill was trying to explain.
Oh, right, yeah, I thought it was just a different option rather than in accordance with the Act. Decide by resolution to defer the matter to a later meeting. Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor O'Neill,
Councillor
And-
Ladbroke's left the room too.
any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 6-0. Item 14.4, Roma Aero Club, new hangar site preparation. Just got a question on this one. If council's looking at doing the work, have we costed it up that we would do it when we're doing other projects? Like, for instance, deputy director or, that brings the reseals and so forth. Have we sort of done it on the finest costing?
Yeah, so Mr Mayor, we, so obviously haven't probably calculated in time with our reseals, but we actually have got the price from Deputy Director Cam, actually gave us the actual quote to do the work, so.
Right, okay.
And I think, and I guess, as you said, that there may be a possibility to do that, which means that then it does come under budget and then we don't need it, but I suppose that we actually look at allocating the amount, and if we can certainly do it together, there's a saving and that'll return back into the airport reserve.
Right. So would the expectation that we'd be trying to do that if
We can ask the question, Mr Mayor. It's just obviously with wet weather and everything else around, it's pretty hard to predict our program there going forward. It's going to be a stop-start process, I think, just looking at the forecasts over the next few months, but we'll certainly try to.
Righto, do we have a question, the mover?
Director Rob, I'm assuming we have $50,000 in the reserves, otherwise you wouldn't have put that in there.
Sorry, Jackson, just that reserve, mate, for the
The total amount.
total amount, yeah.
Currently in airport reserve, we have a little over 4 million, I think 4,103,000.
Okay, so my second question then is, so we're doing the base of it, basically, they're paying for the shed? Yeah, so they'll own the shed?
So they'll pay for the shed and the actual erection of the shed as well.
Yeah.
So they're funding that. They're still chasing out additional funding for the actual shed to be put up. There'll be a lease over it there. We'll have a long-term lease over there. I'll probably have to get a bit of advice on terms of the ownership though of it, but it'd be pretty similar, I imagine, to what we do with a lot of our other facilities there, whether it's football clubs and that, where they construct stuff there too. But it will be a lease over that area.
Okay, so do we have a mover? Councillor Taylor.
I'd like to move that Council 1 approve the release of $50,000 from airport reserves for the design, associated earthworks and construction of a chip seal surface to ensure the site pad is ready for hangar construction.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 7-0. Um, 14.5, letter of support, Roma Commerce and Tourism. Do we have any questions? I'd like to move that Council endorse the proposal of Roma Commerce and Tourism to install approved plaques on the existing plinths in consultation with the families of the soldiers depicted on the said plinths. 2, request final review of materials and their placement prior to implementation. 3, endorse a letter of support from the Mayor on behalf of Council to Roma Commerce and Tourism for their grant application to facilitate the development of Roma Heroes Avenue. And I'm going to add an extra point 4, with approval contingent on Council receiving written approval from RSL and also the coordinator of the Roma Heroes Avenue for the bottle trees, that they would be consulted through the process as well as giving their approval in writing to Council.
Mr Mayor, they have, the information will be collated from the RSL sub-branch, so, and they're also saying that they've been formally approached and support the project, so.
They have, but we haven't.
Ongoing.
Yeah, but we haven't got that directly from them, and there is an enormous amount of work that's done by the coordinator and also the RSL. So I think having them, and I'm sure I read the report and they've been consulted, but there's a big difference with Council getting it in writing that they're happy with it and that they liaise through this process. Otherwise, yeah, I think that's the best result. Anyway, have we got that up on the screen? So 4 is with the approval contingent on Maranoa MRC receiving written correspondence from RSL sub-branch and the coordinator of the Roma Heroes Avenue, so for the bottle trees. So I'm talking about the people that organise that everyone has their information, that be consulted through the process as well as written approval before we give our approval. So that can be as simple as an email about it, and then it triggers the rest of it. Councillor Hancock?
Mr Mayor, just a question. Who is the coordinator of the Roma Heroes? Is that not done under the RSL? Is that somebody separate? Or
No, it
who
is.
the coordinator?
Well, it has been Sarah. That's George Mihay's daughter that does it. So, yeah, and they've been doing that work, for a long time, and it's a really crucial part that, that we don't have any. And obviously I note in the report that it has been there has been discussions, but it's just checking from council point of view that we've tidied that up.
So I have a second question.
Yeah, please.
Through you, Mr Mayor, to Officer Georgie. Have you had conversations with the RSL regarding this project?
Yes, brief conversations with them. Thanks, Mayor.
So they're aware of it?
Yeah, and I was at the initial meeting before it came to council, and they'd had constant communication with the RSL and Sarah, and all those wanting to be involved.
They want to be involved in that project?
Yep.
Thank
But
you.
can get that.
Councillor O'Neill?
So, it was raised with me in respect to this, that it may not be in fact possible to consult with the families of the soldiers depicted on the said plinths, because there are some plinths that there is no family there anymore, and that's why we have community members that take carriage of looking after that plinth and that bottle tree. So I wonder, would you consider removing in consultation with families of soldiers depicted on the plinths, because in a lot of cases it just will be impossible. And it wasn't until, maybe it just hasn't been shared, but the person who spoke to me from RCAT shared with me what it actually looks like, and it's just that QR code at the bottom on the plinth, which I'll share that around the room, because it wasn't, I couldn't see it in the report, so I wanted to know exactly what it looked like. But I just wonder, Mayor, would you stop at existing plinths, because I think in some cases it will just be, it's not possible to consult at all.
Well, yeah, I'm happy to change that, but I think that's why 4 is even more important, because they know the intricacies, the RSL and obviously Sarah, about what is protocol and what is meant to be done. So they'll look after that on behalf of the families.
But it sounds like you're just putting it in writing what's happening anyway, but it's
Well,
it's
it's
in
just
the resolution.
Yeah, because, some people, I don't know, that it might be overwhelmingly good, but in case people think that it's too technical to have on a plinth that's remembering people, so all of that needs to be checked out, so.
Mr Mayor, I think Manager Ed would like
Yeah,
to add
please
to
go
it.
ahead.
Thank you.
We've had similar feedback.
Have you got your microphone on?
However, it's been my experience with memorials of this type, that if some consultation with the families doesn't occur, any change without consultation with the family at all will usually raise queries. So we were going to suggest, before Councillor O'Neill raised it, that you put into the resolution where possible.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But not just can I add, Mayor, not just families, because there are, I'm going to pick the wrong word here, but volunteers. There are people that have taken carriage of looking after particular plinths and bottle trees that in fact have no family connection to the soldier that is memorialised there.
Or relevant, just families and relevant people if possible.
Where possible.
Yeah, where possible.
Without pride, so with a safety net there. Because it's ultimately council will bear the community queries.
Yep.
If there is one.
And to a lot of those plaques,
Number 1.
they're adopted, aren't they? They're adopted out. Oh, there's, like I know, personally, we've got 2 trees, we adopted 2, so I'm assuming the consultation will come back to the families that, well, you've got no direct link, you adopt a tree, like we've got 2, it'll come back via the group, Senator Tuffy.
Consultation with families or relevant
Stakeholder.
stakeholders.
There's people that, like myself, we sponsor a tree.
Sponsor, that's what I'm looking
We
for.
sponsor a tree. We don't, you don't pay anything, but you're required is that every, Anzac Day, you go and decorate your tree and everything else, and it's a commitment you make, and you look after it, you clean up after it, and so whilst you're not directly linked to that soldier, you.
No.
Just so they're not forgotten.
So with the expectation is that they would consult first and ask whether they'd want the QR codes on the plaque, just so they know in case people think it's a terrible idea and it's disrespectful, so, whereas they might be, no, it's sharing the respect because more people can understand about it. So,
And it's just how they see work going on there, Mr Mayor. Like again, my personal experience was the tree that we had obviously had a disease and they pulled it out. But we've been looking after it for 5 years, didn't know, come past one day and the tree was gone, and then a week later a new tree was in there, which is fine, but
Yeah,
you do
that's a
need
good,
to-
that's
you
a
do
good
need to let
point.
people know,
about-
It could cause that little bit of heartache in that meantime for some family members, yeah.
Or stakeholder sponsors of the trees, yeah.
endorse the proposal, families. So I'm wondering whether point one actually needs to say that, you know, if people are not happy about it, whether that comes back or whether it just means that they don't put those on those plaques. Some way that the families or the volunteers have a choice, you know, rather than look what they did to the plaque. Look what they did to the plinth.
Mr Mayor might not have seen that picture.
Yeah, I see it's brass and
Only tiny, like, but it's what it turns into is the,
yeah, what they can read and the,
The story behind everybody.
yeah. Install plaques and existing plinths of consultation.
I would assume, with, you know, the professionalism of Roma Commerce and Tourism, that if a family says no, that they, or the RSL says no, that they would not go ahead and do that.
So the understanding is the families, where there is families or volunteers, they will be asked.
That's right. And so I think that that's fine, really, because
I agree.
it's a community group who's got the heart of the community, the best interests. They're not going to, you know, they're professional.
Okay, so I'll move that council endorse the proposal of Roma Commerce and Tourism to install approved plaques on the existing plinths in consultation where possible with the families and other relevant stakeholders, including sponsors of the soldiers depicted on the said plinths. And I might just put in there if they wish, so it makes it clear. Right at the end of that one. If
In
they
the
wish to be
project.
involved in the process,
Project.
2, request a final review of materials and their placement prior to implementation. 3, endorse the letter of support from the Mayor on behalf of Council to Roma Commerce and Tourism for their grant application to facilitate the development of Roma Heroes Avenue. And 4, with the approval contingent on Maranoa Regional Council receiving written correspondence from Roma RSL sub-branch and coordinator of the Heroes Avenue for the bottle trees, that they would be consulted through the process as well as their written approval prior. So yeah. Okay, do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Burkett, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? I certainly do. I think it's incredibly humbling, the Roma Heroes Avenue, and when you read the early words of council and why they did it, it's even more humbling, and I think we've got a very serious responsibility to work with everyone that volunteers here to make sure that everything we do is only positive and can add to their memory of the fallen soldiers. Does anyone else wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 7-0. Item 14.6, installation of seats at Apex Park. Councillor Burkett.
Look,
I move that council approve the Apex Club of Roma's request to install 8 seats at the Apex Park on Quinton Street, Roma.
We have a seconder, Councillor Ladbrook. Any questions?
Yeah, I just have one question.
Please go ahead.
They buying the seats and we're just installing them? Is that how that reads?
Mr. Mayor, Apex Roma acquired them through a grant with Origin Energy, and they're going to pay for installation.
Yeah, so.
That's what to do with installation. But they acquired the 12 seats, and they're going to put in 8 and have 4 spare.
Councillor O'Neill.
Just wondering if the mover may consider a point 2, which is that we undertake some consultation with Apex. This will, I'll frame this up if to support. But the basis of it is undertake some consultation with Apex on painting one of the seats red, which is in line with Council's resolution to support the cause against domestic violence towards women. We've already got one red seat down at the Parklands. I just wonder if there's an opportunity to have a conversation, at least to see if there was support by Apex to do that.
I'm happy for that.
Righto. So,
So to be undertake consultation with Apex Roma on painting one of the new seats red in line with Council's support in stamping out domestic violence in our region. One of the new seats red in support of Council's role in stamping out domestic violence in our region.
Just have a suggestion, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Ladbrook.
You know, in Cameron, instead of painting it, we could
In our region.
powder coat it.
Whatever the,
Yeah.
yeah,
Because if we paint it,
it'll
we'll,
heal, yeah.
have to paint it again. Where if we powder coat it, I know it costs a bit more money, but it'll be there forever.
Suggesting awareness.
In Council's role in raising awareness
Yes, that's bad.
to stamping out domestic violence in our region. And Michelle, the suggestion was on powder coating
Instead of painting, yeah.
instead of painting.
The painting or powder coating?
Well, I think the
Powder coating.
well, the painting will
yeah.
peel.
Save money in the long run.
John,
Righto. Does the move want to clarify what you're moving now?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I'd move that Council 1 approve the Apex Club of Roma's request to install 8 seats at the Apex Park on Quinton Street, Roma. 2, undertake consultation with Apex Roma on powder coating one of the new seats red to support Council's role in raising awareness and stamping out domestic violence in our region.
Okay. Do we have a seconder?
Is it, did you say raising awareness in stamping out? That
Yeah,
sounds
in
better. You said that. That does sound
I
better.
honestly can't remember what I said.
Yeah. Rather than raising awareness in stamping out.
It was fluctuating a lot on the screen, so I was...
In stamping out domestic violence in our region.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Just sort of reads a bit.
Okay, and we've got a seconder, Councillor
said.
Ladbrook. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 7-0. Okay, L1, development application to expand Brinley Park feedlot from 15,000 SCUs to 32,500 SCUs. Councillor Guthrie.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to, sorry, I'll let Jo go first, she's on the list first. Conflict.
I was there. Yeah, up. If you go scroll back up, yeah. Thank you. Mr Mayor, I'd like to declare a conflict of interest on L1, description development application to expand Brinley Park feedlot from 15,000 SCU to 32,500 SCU. Declaring councillor is Councillor Joanne Hancock. Person with interest is GL&JM Hancock and Hancock Pastoral Company.
Excuse me, Councillor Hancock, have you already declared before on this one?
A different conflict, Mr Mayor.
Right, okay.
Previously it was because my son was a manager, but he no longer is in that role, so this is a different
No,
conflict.
but you know how, like, yeah, if it's different, it's
It's a
different,
different
but
conflict.
otherwise we could just say we've done it.
Particulars of interest, GL&JM Hancock cart, cattle and grain to Brinley Park feedlot, and Hancock Pastoral Company sells cattle to Brinley Park. Type of conflict is declarable conflict of interest, and I'll leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on. Excuse me, Michelle, just I think after GL&JM Hancock you need to put in person with interest. You need to put in brackets, please, my husband and myself after Hancock. After GL&JM Hancock.
No.
No, up where you are.
Yep, there.
There.
Yep.
And myself. In bracket, yep. And then after Hancock Pastoral Company, brother-in-law and sister-in-law, husband and myself.
So I too have a conflict of interest.
Brother-in-law and sister-in-law, husband and myself. Just in brackets like you did above, but you can fix it up later. Perfect, thank you.
Good shorthand.
It is short then.
I too have a conflict of interest in L1. The declaring council is myself. The people or persons with interest are Denny and Katie Wells, who are submitters in this particular matter. Particulars of interest, they are personal friends. Type of conflict, it's a declarable conflict of interest, and I will choose to leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on.
Okay, any other conflicts? Councillor Guthrie.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to advise of a conflict of interest for LC3 L1, development application to expand Brinley Park feedlot. The declaring councillor is Councillor Julie Guthrie, and I'm an equal partner in Guthrie Pastoral Group, which includes myself, my husband Ross Guthrie, and my son Nicholas Guthrie. We sell cattle to ACC that then are assigned to this feedlot site. I'd like to advise that it's a prescribed conflict of interest, and I will choose to leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on.
Okay, any other conflicts? Councillor Ladbroke.
Mayor Gold, I would have done one before.
Yeah.
On the same issue.
Righto, so you'll be leaving the room?
Yep.
And I too have already declared before on the same matter, so I'll be leaving the room. Okay, no other,
Be talking the two of us for briefly.
Yeah, we'll be right.
no other conflicts? Righto, then people with conflict will leave the room.
We're also going to close the meeting and go.
We
on.
can't even ask a question, can we?
Yeah, we've got to get that fixed.
But you don't have a quorum.
No, that's what I mean, yeah. So we sit and so we just call them straight back in?
Yeah.
Oh, gee. Come straight back in.
Yeah, good, yeah.
Michelle, do you want Councillor Guthrie might be able to email that to you.
I did.
Oh.
Yeah, I sent them last, yeah.
I couldn't, last night to get it more to the CEO last night. It's crazy.
Do we have anyone to move on something else on this?
There's got to be one of us, is it? Oh, well, I'll move it. I move that in accordance with section 150 EU 2A of the Local Government Act 2009, that council delegate deciding the matter of loadouts. Oops, hang on. Sorry.
Office.
Give me glasses on. Okay. In accordance with section 150 EU 2A of the Local Government Act 2009, the council delegate deciding the matter of development application to expand Brinley Park feedlot from 15,000 SCU to 32,500 SCU 2020/20217 to the Chief Executive Officer CEO in accordance with section 257(1)(b).
So 1B is,
Maybe not 1B then. I'll let the thought.
It could be C.
sorry, what are you? Oh, so you're happy, sorry, I'm just double checking. You're happy for that to be delegated to me?
There's only going to be 3 in the room if, I think.
Ask a question.
Yeah, sure.
Probably to Manager Rob or to Officer Chris. Has this matter been at the table before?
No, through you, Mr Mayor, we had a...
I thought that. It hasn't.
Briefing session.
It's been at a briefing session, so...
We met with...
the Mayor and Councillor Ladbrokes haven't declared any interest in this matter.
I have declared before.
No, the only time this has been before us was at a briefing session.
When we met
But
with
I also declared at the briefing session that
Yeah, but you have
but I might not have done it in a meeting.
Yeah.
So this is the first time it's been dealt with, is it?
Correct.
Righto. Well, before we do that, I'll declare. Have you got some wording, please?
Well, it's already been dealt with, isn't it?
Yeah,
No,
so
it hadn't gone down.
Those sections are all fine, Councillor
Yeah.
Burkett. Yeah, sorry, I just needed to get my head around.
I'm glad you knew. No, but we haven't gone to... I haven't finished.
Yeah, but we're not declaring on that. Because no one has a conflict with going to see it.
Cheaper them, so I don't know
Well,
what yours look like.
I don't know what
Technically,
you
nothing
do.
was... If I haven't done that, haven't voted, it's still open on the other.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, I'm going to declare a conflict on L1, development application to expand Brinley Park feedlot. Declaring councillor as myself, Councillor Golder. The person with the interest is myself. The type of conflict is a I think with the DA,
What is the
it's
interest, Mr Mayor?
that I
What are
live
the particulars of the interest?
live in a close proximity to the feedlot as far as effects.
As far as effects, Michelle? E.
So with a D, if it's a DA, isn't it a prescribed conflict of interest? Or
Is it
declarable?
is it your development application?
No. So you think, so it's prescribed or declarable?
It's your conflict, Mr Mayor.
Mr Mayor,
I went prescribed only because I followed the cheat sheet for councillors that said if it's a DA coming to council, it has to be.
if the matter relates to an application or submission to council, e.g. a DA or a grant application, it's a prescribed conflict.
That's part of the decision-making process, but who is the development application pertaining to? Is it a close associate or a?
Well, for me it was. because I'm a partner in a business, when I read it, to me, it suggested that it needed to be prescribed, which is what I did.
So it's your development application, isn't it?
No, it doesn't say that. In this, it says, prescribed conflict of interest is a specific, clear list of situations where legislation states that you must not participate in the decisions. If you are a close associate, are a partner or a business, or in a business partnership, then if a matter is coming to council, it doesn't say your matter is coming to council, if a matter related to a contract with the council, including panel sponsorship, it goes on, it would suggest that because it's a DA, it would have to be prescribed. Is the way I read it. Which is why I declared it as a prescribed.
Righto, so it's different in different cases then. So I'll go prescribed conflict of interest, and I will leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on. Councillor Ladbroke?
Yep. The item number is L1 and the description development of application to expand Brinley Park Feedlot. I'm declaring councillor as myself, and the reason that my wife and I own a property in the vicinity of Brinley Park, and I will be dealing with this matter by leaving the room while the matter is being voted on, discussed and voted on.
Does everyone, this is just for me, does everyone have to re-leave the room now again, just the show, or?
Oh, I don't mind if we do.
Oh, I'm just curious, that was all.
Well, we did leave the room, but I'll be happy to, we might just do that again, because we haven't moved on.
Mr Mayor, I just have a question.
Yeah, sure.
How far away is your property from the feedlot?
I don't know, but as the wind goes, it's it has the effects. So
Yeah, I remember that when you had the briefing.
so that's why I'm saying that.
Okay. And so how far is your property away from?
2 kilometres
Okay, thanks.
It'd
as the
vary.
crow flies.
It'd vary.
It's there.
Yeah, different parts, of your
Yeah,
property.
yeah. Mm.
Righto, we might just do that again for completeness.
Just want to get a bit of exercise.
So do you want the CEO to
Yeah, I've got to,
delegate?
but I've got to do that when they're back in the room.
Yeah.
That's just
Yeah,
for
we
show.
don't want to defer it.
Probably only had to tell them to come in and straight out. Just to be. Yeah, that's why I said to Wendy, I was giving you exercise and I had to do more. So may I just move that again? In accordance with section 150 EU 2A of the Local Government Act 2009, that council delegates deciding the matter of development application to expand Brinley Park Feedlot from 15,000 SCU to 32.5 SCU 2020/20217 to the Chief Executive Officer CEO in accordance with section 257(1)(b).
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Taylor, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 7-0. $10:30. Morning tea day.
Anything there?
We could probably do one more.
That's it.
nothing there?
No, but I did see Emma go, so whether she's just gone out to get it, I'm not sure. Yeah. Takes a fair chunk of that one, doesn't it?
Page 130.
Oh, Deputy Director stepped out too. He was-
L2. L2, pedestrian crossing investigation, Perry Street, Yulbar. Councillor Taylor, do you have a question?
I'd just like to hear from
Yeah,
Deputy
please
Director
go.
Cam.
Yeah, thank you, councillors, and through you, Mr Mayor. This report's just a follow-up report from a meeting that was done that required a investigation to be done into a pedestrian crossing on Perry Street at Yulbar. Done the investigation. Obviously the details are outlined in the report, but we did a bit of a pedestrian count for the kids that sort of use that area, and also a traffic count for the vehicles that use Perry Street. So the recommendation I've got there is more just to receive a note, but in the advice to council there is a couple of options provided there if council wants to sort of progress forward with it. I suppose I'm here to provide sound impartial advice, so I just feel that it's responsible for me to pass on sort of just some of my observations from it. So understand that the whole intent of the pedestrian crossing is just to improve safety at that location. At the moment there is no pedestrian crossing, it's just a fairly wide street there, so I can definitely see the merit in the request. The only thing that I think is worth pointing out is with pedestrian crossings, they apportion priority 100% to the pedestrian. So that's not a bad thing, but it's just important to understand that it does apportion priority 100% to the pedestrian. So there's a couple of things that can result in that. So when you've got a small pedestrian crossing number and a higher vehicle number, you're going to have instances where vehicles are going to cross this crossing on a very regular basis and not have any pedestrians there at all. So over time, what can happen there from a road safety point of view is it can desensitise the traffic that this is a dominant 100% priority pedestrians, but every time I approach this crossing, there's never anyone there. So
Get a bit blasé.
you start to get a little bit blasé about it, or you can start to, as I said, be desensitised to say there's never anyone here, so approach it not as cautious as you possibly would where there's a pedestrian crossing that's pushing through quite a lot of pedestrian movements. The other thing that can happen is once you apportion 100% priority to pedestrians, they can typically approach pedestrian crossings a little bit more relaxed than if they are crossing a road that's uncontrolled. So you could have people that now they have priority, they're on their phones talking to their friends or whatever, crossing this pedestrian crossing, whereas typically they know they're crossing an uncontrolled road that does it. So, I've got two recommendations in there, two resolutions in there, council. One is if we did want to proceed with it, which if the question was asked to me, where would you put a pedestrian crossing in Yulbar, it's probably one of the two locations I'd say. It makes sense. You've got children crossing there. Just the numbers they're not high. It's not going to get a lot of use, but is it probably the right spot out of two? It probably is. So if that's a question that you're processing, trying to work out, what I have drafted there is one of the options if we wanted to proceed was to approve it in principle, include it into the master plan, and that we're doing for the whole of the community, and just that would allow it to be considered more holistically and also prioritised across all the projects and that the community might see as a priority in Yulbar. So that's one. The other one was a draft resolution there that I'm more than happy to go and sit with the PNC, talk to them about the findings, not to sort of stop it, but just confirm that their initial intent is still going to be met with this pedestrian crossing facility. So, so that's, yeah, the report was to come back and provide advice. That's sort of the guts of it there. So,
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Deputy Director Cam, that's the truck, that's a main truck line, isn't it, road there?
the traffic count showed that there was some heavies on it. It's not I wouldn't call it a main truck line, but they would use it because it's obviously heads towards the dump. So, like Perry Street, Stevenson Street are probably the two busier streets in Yorba. So, there is a chance that there will be trucks on there, and that. So, yeah, as I said, the community was pretty passionate and keen about it. I just more wanted to say, for the purposes of being complete and fulsome, that's just my technical assessment and advice on it there. So,
just going back to, could you scroll down on that first one, please? Well, I'm happy to move that, one, we approve in principle the installation of the new zebra crossing facility, including localised drainage improvements on Perry Street, Yulbar, linking the newly constructed footpath on the eastern side of Perry Street with the northernmost gate into the Yulbar State School. And then I'll add to point one, after consultation with the Yulbar P&C and school, and P&C and school, if they give their approval, or if they're in agreement. Two, refer the project to be included in the master planning works that currently underway for the town of Yulbar to allow the crossing to be costed and prioritised in the context of the overall master plan. And also to Deputy Director Cameron, what about flashing lights? Because I read in the report that like the children go all different ways. So if they're not going to be necessarily, some might use the crossing, but so is there an opportunity for flashing lights to warn people there's kids going all different directions because it's a fairly small town?
Yeah, no, thanks for the question, Mr. Mayor. As part of a previous resolution on this matter, we've recently installed flashing lights now for the whole school zone along Perry Street. So, what about the other one that heads west? Like where they might be, say, heading west, just as a warning thing. It wouldn't be a school zone; it would just be a warning that there's kids about, sort of thing. Is there such a thing, or is it only flashing lights for a school zone? The regulations are pretty rigid around school zones, just so that you don't introduce inconsistencies around a school zone. I'm just trying to think. There could be just a standard warning sign that there's increased pedestrians. Like I know there's one where there's a symbolic of a parent holding a children's hand. I don't know the application of it, but it could be something that could include in the consultation. It would be a fairly simple sign. I don't think the standard would recommend putting flashing signs on that one because the dominant one is obviously Perry. But
that's fine.
But, Mr. Mayor, through your Deputy Director, I know like other schools, like say the Mitchell School, there's 4 gates, but the school have got a policy only 2 gates for pickup, and they're the ones with 2 zebra crossings. the one on the actual highway's got the flashing lights because it's the highway section, but there's no, kids aren't encouraged to use that exit and entry. So yeah, maybe the school might have allocated gates they're supposed to use or whatever.
Councillor Hancock?
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor, Deputy Director Cam. Where did the original proposal for this come from? Or did it actually come from the school, or did it come from your Bar Development Group?
Yeah, so it come from the president of the Yorba PNC committee.
Yep.
There. So, as I said, it was along the lines of at the time we were looking at installing flashing lights and working with Santos at the time to help. It was obviously on a TMR list to roll out, but it was quite low. So, by that extra funding, it helped bring that up. We actually had a couple of customer requests in the system at the time. So when that previous report comes through council, I just more wanted to recognise that we are investigating the pedestrian crossing, and essentially this is bringing it to back to council to sort of say here's what was. So the main request was from the president of the Yorba PNC.
Perfect. Thank you.
So what I'm putting forward in this is if they go great, we don't hear about it, but if not, it comes back to council if they go, but you're putting it in the wrong place or something's different. Just asking about that, with the localised flooding and they haven't been able to get across from the footpath, will this solve that? Or is it a separate matter?
Through you, Mr Mayor, it'll go ways to addressing it. Obviously, if it's at capacity, it will back up, but on the western side of Perry Street, there's a fair pile of silt that's potentially stopping water running down Perry into Turkey Gully. Where that deposit of silt is exactly where we'd have to build a bit more road to make that crossing work. So it would pull that level down and hopefully allow that water to continue. But as I said, if Turkey Gully's at capacity and backed up, no matter how much is coming down, so it'll definitely go ways to addressing probably more the nuisance events, but if it's a really major event. But I think the nuisance events are the ones that are causing grief down there because they're the ones that you only have 15, 20 mil of rain and you've got water in the curb that's causing problems.
So the other question is, because I was actually going to bring it up as a report, like a little pedestrian bridge that would just, when the gutter's full, and it was full the other day with 50 mil of rain or 60 mil, when the gutter's full, they have to drive their car through to get the kids in and out. Whether they, what I would have to put in it just to have a little, those little arch, it's a bit like the scooter to help the disability scooters, some way to be able to just have a path that the kids could walk that way if it's full. This is off the street. So really, because the gutter gets really wide till the whole town empties out and then it gets away.
Yeah, it could be something that we have a look at specifically. By removing that plug, I think would help. But you can put culverts in or whatever. It can be something that can be looked at. There could be two costings done with a culvert, without a culvert, and that. So. The only question I've got, Mr Mayor, obviously the way that resolution's drafted, would it be okay for dot point number 2 to say subject to the above, like to execute that where it's by default referring up, so subject to dot point.
Right, and I might just put in one just to clarify it, that how would you say to have that little pedestrian bridge to cover the full gutter from when they're having to drive their cars through to get the kids out? Just some way to investigate that.
Is that a totally different project, but compared to putting it? Is it a totally different project
No,
compared to putting a pedestrian crossing in for safety?
I'm pretty sure the same people are raising it, that this would be to do with, like, they actually have to get in the car and drive out when there's a big storm on because there's water everywhere. So
I respect that, Mr Mayor, but I've got no information, there's nothing in the report about it, so.
It says include localised drainage improvements on Perry Street. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. So I might put localised drainage improvements on Perry Street,
Yeah,
including.
it's already in the resolution.
Yeah, including a pedestrian option for a bridge to be able to to be able to, what have we got there? Bridge to be able to transverse the flooding gutter to the street.
Mr Mayor, would you consider making it a new subject? Because there's no costings or anything across that project. There's nothing in the report.
Just looking at options at the moment, so I can come back. So we're looking at options for.
We're approving it in principle, and we're actually going to be putting it into the master plan.
Okay, so I'm happy to put it down 0.3.
And I just have no.
I think all of this has got to get priced up, hasn't it?
Well, there is rough pricing about this in here. That's in the report.
Councillors, the intent would be to obviously include it and as part of the master, just so we don't have a master plan in one progressing forward over here and this completely related project trying to push forward here to put it together. So the master plan could look at two options, one costed conventionally, which I've done in the report, and then a second line which includes a culvert structure as well. So it could be the third dot point include in the costings an additional option which includes a culvert to go from the road to the footpath, and I can bring that costing, that can then form part of the master plan, and we just look at it in its entirety. So
is that the easiest way to do it, a culvert, is it?
Probably a culvert, yeah, Mr Mayor, would be otherwise like essentially a bridge or a culvert. It's the same logic. It's just spanning across an area to let water underneath it.
Because the water's going full width from, it's quite wide, Yeah, okay, 3, including additional costing associated with a culvert or bridge to allow water flow. 4, a pedestrian option for a bridge to be able to transverse the flooding gutter to the street from the school. So this is so the kids can get out in the afternoon. Okay, so do we understand what the motion is?
I just wonder on point 1, it just seems odd that we, in this decision-making body, approve in principle, but that's now subject to another person approving what we've approved.
Well, if
it
it's...
should be, shouldn't it, that we just simply go out to consult, they come back to us, and then we make an informed decision.
Well, I was hoping it wasn't going to come back if...
But if they don't...
Well, maybe if they had any concerns that come back. So
well, then you'd just stop at, wherever it said before.
What about you make it 2
just,
points?
After consultation with your bar, P&C and school, full stop. Because if they don't agree, again, similar to the conversation we had earlier, the staff will bring it back.
Right.
That's just a default. It just seems really odd to approve something in here subject to someone else approving.
No, that's fine. The main thing is we want to know about if they're not happy with the plan because we've got it in the wrong spot or something. Right, so do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor O'Neill, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 7-0. We'll break for morning tea, back in half an hour. Righto, L3, approval for use of Mitchell Memorial Park for Bringa Action Group for Christmas in the Park 2021. Councillor Burkett,
Yeah, I've got a conflict, Mr Mayor.
please go ahead.
Item number L3, approval of the use of Mitchell Memorial Park from Bringa Action Group for Christmas in the Park 2021. I'm the declaring councillor. The person with interest is, my parent, sorry. Just my parent. My father, Gary Burkett, is a non-government member of the Mitchell Workham Community Advisory Committee and Workham for mention in the report. Type of conflict is prescribed conflict of interest, and the action I'll take was leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on.
Okay, so L3, approval for use of Mitchell Memorial Park for Bringa Action Group for Christmas in the Park 2021. Do we have a mover? Councillor Ladbroke.
I'd like to move that a council approve the exclusive use of Mitchell Memorial Park on the 6th of December 2021. Number 2, agree to hire and deliver 10 tables, 100 chairs and the portable stage. And number 3, support the work camp application to set up and pack up of the event.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 6-0. Okay, L4, notice to repeal resolution OM/10.21/136. I'd like to move that council repeal resolution number OM/10.2021/136. In view of resolution number OM/08.2021/8, council commenced the process to seek applications for suitably qualified person to fill the pending vacancy of Chief Executive Officer of Maranoa Regional Council to commence on or after the 2nd of March 2022, and that a suitable employment agencies be brought back to council for consideration after receipt of legal advice about the process. And what I am putting forward that it is replaced with that council appoint pre-recruitment via local buy in appointment of an interim chief executive officer. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbroke. Any opposition? Does the mover wish to speak to? I'll speak to it, and I believe this is a crucial, urgent thing that needs to be done, and I believe that this is in the best interest of the local government, so that's why I'll be supporting it. Do we want to speak against the motion? Councillor Taylor.
I'd just like to know why we need an interim CEO when I thought the job of Deputy CEO was to step up when the CEO went on leave. And we have established that in the past it's just accrued leave, and she is still be employed by council until the 2nd of March 2022. Am I missing something here? Why is it in our best interest? Why would we go look anywhere else when we can source this in-house? No expense, and someone with knowledge of our organisation for the continuity for the staff, sorry.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak for the motion or against the motion? Councillor Hancock.
Oh, I must admit, I'm actually even struggling with the replacement resolution because it's a totally different resolution to what was put forward. The first resolution was about filling the vacancy of the Chief Executive Officer from the 2nd of March. And now we're going to put an interim chief executive officer in. So it was about replacing the chief executive officer when her contract finished. That's what the original resolution was. Now we're going to put an interim chief executive officer in from when our chief executive officer is on leave. So how do we have two CEOs of an organisation? Our chief executive officer is the CEO until the 1st of March. I cannot see how you can have two people as a CEO of an organisation. So what has been common practice is you have a CEO, then you have the deputy CEO. When the CEO is on leave, as council has resolved to force the CEO to go on leave, the deputy CEO steps into that position. It is about the continuity of the organisation. It is about the fact that that person knows that they've worked with the CEO and they know all about the organisation, and it is about the financial impacts on the organisation. Once again, you're asking us to put in an interim chief executive officer, so now there is no talk, in this resolution, there is no talk about how we're going to recruit the CEO for the future come the 1st of March in this repeal notion. So where's the financial implications to this? How much will it cost us to pay a CEO who is on leave, an interim CEO to come in while she's on leave, and a deputy CEO who could actually easily, and has done previously, stepped up into the role and acted as a deputy CEO for this organisation? Where's the financial implications of this? We have put in an interim CEO for this. What about the housing? What about where do they live? How much will this cost the organisation? I do not see that this is for the benefit of the organisation. And I would actually like to remind the eligible councillors that once again, a word has been given on this. And if this is supported today, council will be going against their word again. So I'd just like to remind those eligible councillors that they gave that word. And so I cannot support this because this is not about filling a vacancy on or after 2nd of March. It's about adding another expense and another layer to the financial implications of this council.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak for the motion or against the motion? Councillor O'Neill.
I'm against this resolution. I think Councillor Taylor and Councillor Hancock have raised some really valid points. I find it interesting that the only argument that can be put as to why to support this is that it's loosely in the best interest of the organisation. It can't be in the best interest of the organisation with the question mark that now lies over the financial implications and why we're overlooking, a number of qualified people within our current organisation to fill an acting chief executive officer. There's a material difference between an interim CEO and an acting CEO. I'm not privy to, what the outcome is that the Mayor's driving, but I do note that it is a difference in terminology as part of the resolution. I think it would be appalling to support this today with the lack of information that surrounds it. And as I stated, I think the questions that Councillor Taylor and Hancock have raised need to be answered before this is supported.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak for the motion? Certainly I'll just sum up and say that I believe that this is quite within council's right to do this, and it's really a decision of council. We're running a $100 million budget. I believe the focus needs to be on having not just someone stepping up, which can happen sometimes, but I do believe we've got to focus on really delivering on our budget and delivering on an improved financial position. Okay, so we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? 4-3, and if I can call for a division. Okay, moving on to L5. L5, Yulbar Master Plan, confirmation of consultation with the Yulbar Development Group. Do we have,
Mr Mayor, can I move we lay this on the table until we actually get the information?
okay,
This is a placeholder.
We got an
We've
email.
already
to-
received the email.
I haven't had a chance to read
No,
that.
I haven't read it either, but we have got it.
okay. So we'll lay, so we've got a motion to lay it on the table. Is it till later in the meeting?
Yep.
Right, all those in favour? 7-0. L6, McClellan's Road, Yulbar. I'd like to move the council perform urgent maintenance to McClellan's Road, Yulbar, for the road to be trafficable and safe, including for heavy vehicles. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbrook, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? I do. The resident is very frustrated with no action. And I believe that we should be in our maintenance budget doing minor maintenance work to clean up when, gullies have over, like you've got silt from water that's been over the road. And it really just needs minor works to make it correct. I believe there's even a big pile of silt and so forth. And I believe that this should be something that should happen urgently. The resident does have a lot of grain to get out, and they need that road trafficable, but also it's just general maintenance of a council road. Councillor Taylor?
I just wondered through you, Mr Mayor,
Please.
if Deputy Director Cam's got any insight on the road?
Through you, Mr Mayor, not specifically. There's obviously, that is an area CSG are using. I'm in negotiations separately to this. This is probably more just a general maintenance matter that, it's probably more the likes of the overseer in that, but I'm more than happy. I'll work with them if there's engineering concerns that they've got with some of that. So.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Hancock?
Mr Mayor, have they, is there CRs that have been attached to this? Have they
I
put it-
believe that the resident has put CRs in before, but he was in no interest in putting the CR in, so I said that I'll bring it to the council table. So I believe but it has been before, and the comment was he's been asking for this for some time, for something to be happening. And I don't know whether some may even happen to do with flood damage, but really that's why I'm putting forward urgent maintenance. So it's really, it's to do with the urgent maintenance to make it trafficable.
So is it not accessible at the moment? Do you have a photo or anything to show
No,
us?
I don't, but the resident says that there's major issues getting heavy vehicles over there as a normal road. So
Roughly how much do you think this will cost? Like, do we have the budget for it?
urgent maintenance to the road is just maintenance, and we do have a maintenance budget for the whole year, so I'm sure it can be kept into that, and it would just be done. We're not talking about capital upgrade or anything like that, it's just maintenance. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Neil, please go ahead.
I get there's issues with this road because the landowners have spoken to me, not recently, but previously. My concern here, though, is that, one, this is directing staff to undertake work, not through the CEO, and there's no costing around it. Now, it's all well and good to say that there'll be a maintenance budget. There is, but for a decision to come before council and for us to provide direction, that's going to have a cost implication to it. And I just don't think it's appropriate that not be included. So, as a decision maker here, I'd like to know the cost, not taking anything away that it needs to be done. So I'll move that it lays on the table until later in this meeting to understanding an indicative cost of doing the maintenance work.
All those in favour?
Sorry, can I just ask a question before that? On situations where takeout it didn't come here, but it went to the CR, would the costings be done then too? Like if it's classed as emergency work and they react straight away and do it, what's the situation there? I'm just curious. The difference between it coming here or landing on, say, Deputy Director's desk or one of the Director's desk, do they have to escalate a financial costing before they go out and do it, or they just emergency work, they go out and do it? That's just where I'm at.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So practically, we've got adopted levels of service that build up the operational budget. So certain roads get graded at certain frequencies. Where we get requests to say, I would like a concrete floodway through here to fix the problem, that's a matter for council to come back and resolve, because it's not something that the officers have budget just to go out and do. But where it falls within the level of service, it's in the budget. But without understanding the exact request here, is this floodways? The resident wants to go from gravel to concrete. If that's the case, it's a decision that's got to come back through council, because we don't.
So it's a culvert, is it?
No, it's just performing urgent maintenance.
Just a washout, is it, or?
That's I'm just trying to get my head around.
So ordinarily, Councillor Burkett, what might help you is that a request will come in, will get logged, it'll go to the relevant area.
Yeah, sorry.
Those relevant areas will have a look at whether it's flood damage impacted, so there's a process we need to go through with that, or some other matter. If they can do it within their budget, they'll do it. If they can't, it's going to take a bit more cost involved, then they'll bring it to council.
So maybe if this was just council investigate.
But that could have already happened. It didn't need a late report to do that.
Yeah, I'm assuming the person didn't want it. But I'm just getting back to the financial implications, the difference of this bit of paper as opposed to it directly coming to staff through a CR. That's what I was sort of getting at.
But the difference is what I'm actually moving, and if it's successful, I don't mind getting the costing as Councillor O'Neill's asked for, but I'm actually saying we're doing it, right? We're making a decision to do that urgent maintenance on that road.
It's just urgent maintenance.
Yep, which the community would expect, I think.
And that's my issue, is we're making a decision on something that we have 3 lines on a piece of paper. If we could see a photo of it, if we could see, I don't know what pertains a maintenance, urgent maintenance. I don't know if it is a pothole. I don't know if it is more a bigger washout. I don't know if it's hasn't been graded for 2 years. I'd like to know that stuff. I don't deny that this is obviously an issue and this community member needs some help. But as a decision maker, I probably just need that little bit more information. And the reason you need that is because for the next person who comes to the table and asks for the same thing, we need to have some sort of an idea on horses for courses and the needs. And I don't know what this project actually contains. And that's the only reason I'm asking for that more information, is I don't have enough information.
Righto, so we've got a motion of Councillor O'Neill's to lay it on the table till later in the meeting. All those in favour? 7-0.
We probably have to make some calls because there's no CR in there about it at the moment,
Yeah,
so
no,
we're not aware of the work, so there's no CR on it. So
If you need if you haven't got the...
wouldn't
yeah, we just
it? It'd be pretty hard to happen today.
It normally wouldn't be too bad. Like normally with a CR, it's logged and you've got a photo, and we know what
Yeah.
this hasn't come back through the normal channels, so we actually haven't got a CR in the system for it. So I will just have to make some phone calls to the landowner if I can get the name of the owner.
Yeah,
Mr.
no,
Mayor.
I'll pass that on, and I think we
Ring and
could,
find out for you.
I think they'd quite easily say what it is, so people can have an estimate of it. Item L7, tree lighting, Surat Lions Park. Do we have a mover? Councillor Ladbroke.
I'd like to move that council receive and note the report by way of follow-up and acting on of council resolution OM-11 2021 -31.
Yeah, I'll second that. I've just got a question to Councillor Hancock. Were they looking for spotlights or fairy lights?
They were looking for the fairy lights that wrap the tree and go up into the
All right,
branches,
okay.
so each individual branch has the...
Righto.
Not cheap
Okay.
exercise.
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes?
Sorry. Just within the body of the report, there's a slightly more substantial resolution if council wanted to proceed with this. So Michelle's just got it up on the screen there. If just to give us more direction on to go ahead with it, and
Councillor Ladbroke, would you be interested in moving that motion?
Yeah. Which one? There's two there, isn't there?
One
There's
to proceed.
or.
One either is do the job, and the other one is do not. And you've currently moved the one to not do it.
Well, not to not do it, but to note
Council
it.
receive and note the
He just went
report
off
by way of follow-up.
But,
So
Not
that-
doing the job.
well, yeah, it's not saying not
It
to
doesn't
do it,
say
but
not
it's-
to do it.
It's just noting it. But obviously to do it, you'd need 0.1, I believe, of the top there.
Okay. I'd like to prove that, approve the installation of fairy lights on the two bottle trees at the entrance of Lions Park, Surat, with works to be funded from WO 12853, Parks and Gardens Operations and Maintenance. And number two, complete the installation as soon as practical and prior to the start of the planned Christmas shutdown for the field staff, being Friday the 17th of December 2021. Thank you,
And
Julie.
were you happy to have on the top that council?
What's that?
On starting with, you're happy to have that it starts with that council?
Oh, yes, sorry. Yeah, that council, yeah.
So I'm happy with that change motion. Now, is any opposition to the motion? Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
No, I'm happy.
Righto. Does anyone else wish to speak?
Yeah, I do.
Councillor
Thanks.
Hancock?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just want to note, I do support this resolution for the lighting of the trees. I'd like to thank Murray Bright and the SDDA for bringing this project to the council table and for having the initiative to keep looking for projects in Surat that can enhance not only our livability but for our tourism season, so that people will stay that extra night and that there's something for them to see and enjoy that parklands. And I also do note that I think that it is worth an investment. In the council's report, it actually says that the ferry lighting, that council officers have worked with commercial suppliers of ferry lighting to ensure the product is fit for purpose and will stand the test of time in for both the product and the longevity of the trees proposed to be used for the installation. So I think that is worth it, worth pointing out that it's actually about, the right thing, the right product for the tree, and also the stand the test of time. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Righto. Does anyone else wish to speak for or against the motion? I'll certainly be supporting this because I think when community members bring things up, it's a very good situation if council can deliver. So obviously this is driven by community members, and if we can deliver this before Christmas, then an excellent opportunity to, as part of operating locally, to be able to do these sorts of initiatives. Does anyone else wish to speak for or against? Councillor O'Neill.
I just want to contribute to the debate today by congratulating Councillor Hancock for bringing it forward on behalf of the community in which she resides. I had a lot to do with the Lions Park in a previous term, and as did Councillor Hancock in her role as LDO. And I think a project like this will further enhance what is a wonderful asset, community asset for the people in the community of Surat. And Councillor Hancock, I think you should take away the greatest form of flattery that can happen at this table is when two other councillors jump in to move and second a follow-up report to something that you've brought to the table. It shows that there is strong support across other councillors.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak for or against the motion?
Mr Mayor, I know I have spoken, but could I just thank the staff, because I just wanted to acknowledge that this was done in a really short period, and so thank you for allowing me to speak again, but I should have done that before. Thank you very much, Deputy Director Cam, and your staff for doing this, because I understand that we did ask for it in a very short period, so thank you. And thank you, Mr Mayor, for letting me speak again.
No problem. So we're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 7-0. L8, preparedness for levy and associated flood mitigation. I would like to move that 1, we perform urgent minor repairs immediately on the eastern diversion channel where erosion has been caused. 2, instigate stockpile of materials for levy repair as part of general preparedness of disaster management for Roma. And 3, have an evacuation strategy in the event of needing to evacuate low-lying areas within the contingency of the levy inside and out. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Burkett, any opposition?
Just a question.
Sure, please go ahead.
Through you, Mr Mayor, wouldn't we not have an evacuation strategy as part of your local disaster management? Like, I know I'm chair of the LECC Surat and we've got all those strategies, and so wouldn't there already be an evacuation strategy?
As we are in a situation that we've got predicted for above average rain, I believe that in some of the feedback I've had about where water is going now that is unexpected, I believe we should be, and no doubt we've got plans, but I'm talking about getting them ready so we preparedness is a huge part of disaster management, and having it ready and going over these things to make sure that we have these areas covered and we've got a sort of fresh plan ready to go. Obviously, I don't expect that we will be needing it, I would hope, but I believe it needs to be there. And as far as the LDMG meetings, I've never seen to that detail, whereas this is a bit like having it very much ready to go. So if we did need it, because we are talking about more weather events coming through, we now have a system that's fairly wet. So this is just good part of preparation.
Mr Mayor, if I probably could, the Deputy Mayor, he raised this issue at the start of the season there, just after the February floods, and we wrote to the landowners there and developed the evacuation plan, and it was endorsed by the LDMG in March this year.
Yeah.
But maybe it's a matter of actually promoting that plan, just let people know it's there, and just in case we've missed anyone.
Yeah.
But we did write to the residents there and ask for feedback, and we've got trigger levels when we notify people, and but as you said, higher than average rainfall. So maybe we just actually, that plan that was adopted by the LDMG in March, we put that out and just publicise it, just in case, as you said, in case we missed anyone, or there's particularly areas of concern there too, but I'm happy to circulate to the councillors there, but happy to put it out to the community there just in case. He said there's probably, like certainly Roma Downs Road and that Beaumont Drive area were the ones that we focused on. But, perhaps if there's others north of Beaumont Drive there that we may have missed or something there, if I put it out there and asking for community comment.
And also, so what I'm saying is, just so we map out all the low-lying areas, we know we've got a strategy. We know we're putting some pumps in, which are not in yet. If we do have these events happen, like it's almost like it's practice that we know who's looking after going and contacting those people, so forth, because the last flood we've had is probably the largest flood we've had since we've had the levy in, and I have had some feedback. It's water's going in different directions and so forth. So this is, and obviously we've of course got our plans, but this is actually about really having it very current, that we know, like if it happened next week, we've got it very much who's doing what and how we doing it. So that's a crucial part of.
So maybe
obviously this would go back through to the LDMG and we'd have to meet about it.
So maybe just rather than say have an evacuation strategy, because you do have one, maybe it's update.
Yeah.
Because you do have one.
Yeah. May not need to be updated,
Review.
perhaps review
Well, yeah,
and be familiar with.
maybe there's new tenants in the area too, like that, so what you said
Exactly,
before,
yeah.
that not new information, but putting it out there again so those residents know.
Yeah, and I know that's something that the Mayor's raised previously too, that every year we should be contacting the people in that area, up and down the river there too, just make sure their details are updated. So, and we've started that process down in Surat. Maybe it is review, yeah, maybe do that.
Councillor O'Neill.
I think that's really important. I have a question, but I just want to say it's really important to tighten that language on 3, given the information's been provided, and it's not your intention, but that could be misleading to the community to have yourself as the chair of the disaster management group saying there's no evacuation strategy or plan, because there is one. So if that can be tightened, and it's obvious from your language that wasn't the intention, but on writing that could be misconstrued. So that's good advice from the director. I just wonder, given what the Mayor has said in relation to, of recent times, at least now 2 residents raising question marks over where water has moved in this latest event that they hadn't seen before, we've already had a brief conversation about one of the correspondents, and I know there's been a subsequent delegation to that individual's property. We've now received another letter from a neighbouring landowner raising similar concerns. What is a step here that can all be looked at to then come back to at least brief council of what's happening, if that's the norm, or something's changed in terms of roadworks or whatever that have meant water's moved in different directions than we've had in the past?
We can schedule a briefing for the next, is it first?
Because I think it's really important with those landowners have put a lot of information in both of their independent correspondence. Whilst it's good to have verbal conversations with elected representatives, I think it's vital that something formally goes back to them. If that has to come through a briefing to a council meeting and back out, I think time is of the essence, given what you've just alluded to, Mayor, that there is predictions of more rain this year than we've had in previous years. We need to act quickly to get some of that information back to allay some concerns.
So just with 3, what I just want to clarify, that what I'm talking about is that we've obviously got our plans, but we look at it and we just say we got an event, we know who's doing what, and physically what's changed, whose houses have been built. Now that we've got some feedback that water's coming from a different area, that will actually be like, well, not really an exercise, but like that, where we've got everything ready to go. So we know we've got 320 people that are going to be affected, possibly, hopefully not, but we actually know that these will look after these people and these will look after these and so forth. That's what I'm actually saying with that.
Mr Mayor, it sounds to me like you would like an action plan or an action strategy. It's actually about, you want to be able to make sure we know who is actioning what, who's doing what, and then the community. It sounds like that is actually what you'd
and
want.
maybe have some sort of a test, because we'll, you know, when it is event on, we sometimes everything happens very quickly.
That's right, yeah.
Whereas this is about saying we've got it covered. You know, it's a bit like I'll look after that street, or not me, but people will look after that street and I'll look after that. Well, some of these people are more like they're on acreage, and then
Can you ask
inside.
that through your LDMG to actually do a mock? Why don't you?
Yeah.
Could you ask to do that? A mock?
I think they need to be included in there to tie it in,
Practice.
review and familiarise with current LDMG strategies or whatever.
So, Deputy Director, what about? It's not really an exercise, but like
Deputy
that where we.
CEO.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Deputy CEO. What do you think about?
I think you got it pretty well covered up there. Review and familiarise, Mr Mayor. So, like, we have updated the plan only just this year. We wrote to the landowners. We've rung them there. As I said, it came back through the Deputy Mayor. Had a concern there because people sort of weren't really sure what the trigger points were, and so we actually updated the plans and then the trigger points. I think it is. You said reviewing and familiarising itself and running.
Would that allow us to have a bit of a mock desktop one where we know who's doing what?
Exactly that's where I was going with it. Is that we can actually have a quick run through of it there ourselves there. Like we sort of meet really fortnightly at the moment there. We're just doing our reviews there. We only had a meeting on Monday there just with our pumps and that sort of stuff there too. So we can include that because we do we've been meeting really fortnightly, Mr Mayor. Happy to do the exercise on it. Yep.
But I'm actually talking about we'll go and contact everyone, because some people don't get the mail or whatever, and just say it's okay to get your details. You know, this is who we're contacting, and
and as you said there too, look, there's certainly, I know, and since March this year, you drive Miss Campbell East Road there, get over Clayton's Road there, you get 23 new houses up there on the hill there too. So no, we can update it, Mr Mayor. So we can review that and have a practice go through it.
right. So that allows that to happen, does it?
The wording up there, I think you've got now covers that.
Okay, so I'm going to move that. I've already moved that. Perform urgent minor repairs immediately on Eastern Diversion Channel where erosion has been caused, where it has occurred. We'll get rid of cause and say it's occurred. Instigating stockpiling of materials for potential levy repair as part of general preparedness for disaster management for Roma. 3, review and familiarise with the operational evacuation strategy in potential of a event of requiring evacuation of low-lying areas within the contingency vicinity of the levee inside and out. Contingency.
Should that be in anticipation, Mr Mayor, rather than in potential?
Right, in anticipation, I'm happy to change it to that.
Possible event, or while they...
So councillors, with just that point number 1 there too, obviously straight after that event, as the Mayor's identified, there was that minor scouring there. We'll be a bit sceptical because going throwing rocks straight in there and creating even more problems there. So we got onto GHD who did the design just to say, because it is going to, there's an overland flow there, to get a design there and do that. So we've on the same page there, we've sort of engaged them to...
That's all.
Don't need number 1.
Oh no, happy to have it there because we're doing it. We're doing it, councillor. So just let you know, we're on the same page. We're already onto it. We've spoken to GHD for a design, so
Ideally,
and we'll
councillors,
do the work.
if you have something like this, send in, just check what's happening first, and then we can...
It does allow me to go ahead and spend the money and do it though too, so which is good. So just let you know, we are on the same page. We've started the process.
And because it's getting close to a landowner's fence, what I'm actually putting forward is we put some dirt in there at the beginning. And obviously we've got a proper solution, which probably will take some time unless you can do it very quickly. Because if we get another flood event, even on Thursday, if we get decent rain, last time it went so far, now it's gone so much further. We're only a few metres away from the actual fence collapsing. So that's why it needs something, that we don't lose a fence over it. Because nearly everyone goes to dump sees that and says that should be fixed. So, Councillor O'Neill?
Just in respect to point one, again, similar vein to when we spoke about the issue with the McClellan's Road, I get that urgent repairs has to happen. And I was going to ask around the financial cost to that, but given that we've just been advised that it is happening, would you just amend that to say that council note the advice that urgent minor repairs are occurring on the eastern diversion channel where the erosion has been.
The only thing is, because I think,
or was I wrong? That was the advice we just got, that's happening.
Look, I'm not opposed to point one, councillors, because we are doing it. I just made the point that we're on the same page. We're doing it. You know, I'm happy to council authorises.
We're already on top of it. Is what I'm saying.
But
So
my point is, let's say you weren't doing it, and now our instruction is to do it. There is a financial cost to do it, and for when decisions come here, we get bogged down in we have to make good economic decisions, and so therefore that's where we need to have all the information. Whereas when it goes to the staff, they can enact the policy, which is that we do the repairs. That was what you were asking about before, Councillor Burke.
Just confusing, just for a bit of paper. That's all.
yeah, so
It's our delegation,
the
though.
Deputy CEO role, as the local disaster coordinator and the deputy disaster coordinator, together with the RPQ for the channel, you identify the scouring. You've taken some steps to identify a solution to that. And once that comes back, we'll know the cost. And if it's a substantial cost, then we can incorporate it into the budget.
If the plan was, we've got GHD just having a look at that scouring because we don't want it to keep happening again. We're looking at some matting there as well. We can make that happen pretty quick. We're thinking just doing it as under maintenance. If it comes back that it's not going to fit in with the maintenance budget, I'll bring it back. But I was just pointing out that we're on the same page, councillors. We identified it, realised it needs to be done urgently, and that's what we're doing. So I can do it under our maintenance there, disaster management maintenance. But if it comes back and they've designed something massive, of course I'll bring it back.
But noting it has the same outcome. The importance of it being raised here today is that the community see that councillors recognise the importance of making sure that this asset is, to standard. Now that we've got that advice, it won't trigger us to have to know the costing of it. We can just note that it is happening.
It's got to happen.
However, if there's no budget impact, we'll bring it back.
Yeah, but
or if there is a budget impact,
Sorry, if it's too big,
it comes back to
it'll
us.
come
Yeah.
back,
that's what I was going to say. I think it's important that we do know, so that we look like we are on top of it. Otherwise, it's looking like we're going in two different directions. If we're saying to perform it, and they already are performing, we need to let them know that is the case, because then they go how proactive and on top of things we are.
Correct.
So
I
think
much goes to the reputation.
Yeah.
of the council.
Otherwise, it looks like you guys are waiting on us to jump on something that you guys are already on top of.
And that's not the case, obviously, with the advice that we've just been given.
Yeah, that's why I mean it needs to be changed. Number one.
Yeah.
but the difference is, what I'm actually putting forward is we do something, whereas...
I agree, but you still
but
we still got to acknowledge that. Otherwise,
well, that's fine. But what I'm actually saying, the officers are working on a long-term option to stop it happening again, right? What I believe that the community wants us to see, and maybe they were going to do it anyway, like before this next rain event, which is tomorrow, that we actually get some material in there to stop the fence line from going.
Totally agree, but we should be able to incorporate both those things in there. One, to look like we're proactive, and two, that we're already on it. Like it's otherwise.
So I move we lay this on the table till later in the meeting to get some idea of costing for the basic material to be used. So we could also put that, and then we can look at whether that goes under our disaster management work order.
We won't have the information back from GHD.
But just with maintenance there, councillors, I've got a budget for that. So, sorry, Cam, you had a point there with that?
So having continued, that shows that we're on top of it anyway.
So we'll go to the vote and we'll get some. So because what I'm talking about, the solution that is being organised is a very good solution, but I don't think it's going to happen before our rain event. So this is about, we're only a couple of metres away from losing the fence, 2 or 3 metres, whatever it would be, as an estimate. I don't want to lose the fence into a neighbour's place, so, from the levy. So that's why, so we can know what it was going to cost to get some material and put in there. But the long-term solution is an excellent one, but I don't think it will be done before Thursday, so.
But a question, Mr Mayor, is can we just go and dump dirt in there? Like don't we need some sort of
It's on our side.
an engineering, somebody with qualifications to tell us whether that is actually what needs to happen, or whether we might actually make a problem worse, or whether first lot of rains are going to go down the
Well, it
channel
could,
anyway?
but-
Like, I just wonder if we can actually do it.
That's one thing, that's fine. It was just the throwing rock in as a temporary solution is not a good solution, but dirt's not a drama. But
So we can just chuck the dirt in and that's okay?
Yeah,
Sure.
through you, Mr Mayor, like realistically, if council want anything done between now and Thursday, we can throw dirt in there. It's as per the design at the moment, but we just need to be very conscious that it will wash
Yeah,
again.
definitely.
What concerned me the most was people were saying start throwing rock in there. Guarantee you start throwing rock in a scour already, you'll get twice the size scour very quickly. So, so if council are wanting something between now and Thursday, the only option will be to put dirt in and return that bank. But it's a very high chance it'll wash again. I expect GHD to have the design back to me this afternoon because I've talked to them after our meeting on Tuesday. But it's probably more like what they call an anchor mat, which is just dirt. Use the dirt as the face, but put a fabric on top of it so that it's more resistant to scour. But that could be maybe 2 weeks from going in. But if it's between now and Thursday, the only thing we can realistically put in as a safe solution would be dirt, because that's already approved by an engineer. Put rock in there and that will cause more issues.
And just when we say, don't think it's a long-term solution, as in, like, it will last, but we're not going to do this till after Christmas. We're only talking within the next sort of 1.5 weeks. So, but we can throw some dirt in there before tomorrow. So we get the design back. We've already had the meeting, so we're talking. We're going to get more rain over the next few months. We'll have a permanent solution in place for you fairly quickly.
Okay, so I've just moved to lay it on the table later in the meeting so we can get the idea of the costing, if you'd like.
Then, given that.
But sorry, in light of that though, we're just throwing dirt in there, Mr Mayor. So if you want to do it, just do it. We can do it. We can throw dirt in there. It's not a drama. It's very quick. We can get that in before tomorrow. As we said, as we probably alluded to, it's going to be matting with dirt back over the top. That'll be confirmed tomorrow, and that'll happen next week anyway. But if you want dirt there tomorrow, we can do that. I don't need to lay it on the table and get costings.
What's the difference? Sort of.
Matting won't be a problem either, councillors. I'll do that. On
Just a question, do you compact it too, or just pour it in there?
A lot of.
I don't know, it's just a question.
Yeah, council, we'll do our best. It's obviously still fairly wet. The first prize will be to get it in there into shape.
Yep.
If we can get some compaction in, we would, but first prize would be at least get the material in there and that. So that'll be our first objective. And if we can get some form of compaction, it could be wheel rolling versus full blown rollers. But yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so I've moved that. Well, I'm going to cancel the laying on the table, so we'll go with the motion.
I'm happy.
You happy?
Yeah.
Councillor Hancock?
Sorry, Mr Mayor, I just have one other question. I'm not against it, I'm happy to fix it, but I also am very aware of community perception. So my question is, I have no idea what it's going to cost to go and dump some dirt in there and to fix this problem, with the knowledge in my mind now that potentially we could dump that dirt in there and it could come down and just all be washed away again, and I can see it all over Facebook that, council wasted their money, they dumped the dirt in there and it's just been washed down the creek again. I don't know if that's true or not. I just need to know that does it look like just a patch-up job from council, and are we better off to do that, or are we better off to wait for what's the risk in not doing it and waiting for the match to doing it?
It's probably not the cost part of it there. Just like Charles Street, from previous experience, you're looking at about $1,000.
Yeah.
So my concern as an officer isn't about just people don't waste money, because we can do it relatively cheaply. My concern is that people think that's what people will think that we think this is going to fix it. And they go, well, obviously you didn't know what you're talking about because it's washed away again. No, we knew it was going to wash away again. And it was just to get it through this period because it is too wet to get in there. We've got a plan to do something next fortnight. I'm not worried about people saying, oh, you've wasted the money. We can do it fairly cheaply. I just don't want people thinking that was our permanent fix when it's not. We know there's a better fix. This is just a temporary fix. So maybe we need
Exactly
to promote
what
that.
I'm actually
So we
saying.
just need to promote that. And I can do like a Facebook post or something, councillors, say that it's a temporary fix. We've got a plan done for the next fortnight. It's a good point. The way to deal with it is I'll put like a Facebook post out saying, look, we're doing some minor repairs to it. With the view when it dries out, come back in the next fortnight and fix it properly. Because if you don't do that, people will say, you don't know what you're talking about, it's washed away. No, well, no, we knew it was going to do that.
It's
But
pretty sad that we've got to worry about these Facebook worries because the idea is to stop offence to get potentially washed away, which is going to cause financial burden to someone else.
And them and council, because we're
Yeah.
we're the other party, and if it wasn't the fence, then we could wait and do the other.
But I think, through you, Mayor Rob, I mean, a post is fine, but that goes to what Councillor Burkett is suggesting, that it's pandering to the people on social media. Let's just put out a press release with a photo of the levee that says, we know we've got some rain coming later in the week. Residents have raised concerns around, this somewhat of, erosion there. We're going to whack in, a load of dirt to get us past this event, but we do have a plan to fix it in the short term. Let's just put it out there, get in front of, and you'll put it on social media, but let's make sure it's getting into the paper,
And conditions, and well, like Deputy Director said, the conditions mightn't let you even do a patch-up job really well either, so they need to know that as well.
And if you're doing, there's 3 points to this resolution, councillors. We said we're going to go do some media around point 3, saying if you've got concerns, come and see us, add to the list. So we just tie it all in together. So we're already going to do the media. We can point out that we're performing some maintenance works there, and the view is to undertake some other works later on.
Could we add, just taking to Councillor Burkett's point, the first note that Council note the information provided by officers about the steps underway.
I think so.
To identify a short-term solution.
Temporarily fix.
No, the works that are underway are the permanent solution in the short term.
Oh, yeah.
So that note the works underway by council officers to identify a long-term solution in the short term. The longer-term solution to be implemented as quickly as possible. As quick.
Do you want that one, do? Shouldn't have to. No. No, won't have to put that one.
In a short time frame? Yeah, we just don't want the community thinking that it was going to be 6 months from now. It was, you were getting the longer term solution before.
Right.
As quickly as possible. Oh yeah, that's true. And as soon as practical.
That becomes 1. Then there's a 2, 3, 4.
And then then 1 becomes. Yep. It's almost like it's emergent work, isn't it? Similar to
Okay, so I'm happy with 1 to be that the work's underway by council officers to identify a longer-term solution to be implemented as soon as, well, they're already doing it, so.
That's why you got note. You didn't say note though.
Oh, right. So note that the work's underway by council officers to identify a longer-term solution be implemented as soon as practicable. And I've already said 2 and 3 and then 4.
It's just changed to bit number 2 though.
Righto. 2, continue to perform current or minor or urgent. I want to have urgent minor works. To perform urgent minor short-term repairs to the Eastern Diversion Channel where erosion has occurred prior to anticipated weather events. And then 3 hasn't changed and 4 hasn't changed, I don't think. So, is the seconder happy with that?
Yep.
Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it?
So sorry, can I just clarify, the review and familiarise, is that, that local disaster coordinator sending, all councillors a copy of what's there at the moment?
Oh, I think we as the LDMG might have a meeting and talk about it. Deputy CEO, Rob, does that mean we can have an LDMG meeting about it and go through it, or go through it before?
It already exists, it's just a case of circulating to councillors.
Sorry, I just missed the.
So when we do this mini little exercise and work out who's looking after what and what areas and updating all that, how do we?
You don't need an LDMG for it because that's not doesn't obviously the LDMG is when we get the committee members together and we that's actually, and then from the LDMG meeting everyone goes away and does their operational stuff. We do our bit, which is sandbagging. We do the ringing around. SES go and do their stuff. Ergon Energy do their stuff. So it's probably not the LDMG one. They've already adopted the plan. What I'll probably do is I just would actually have an exercise is probably the key word, ourselves on it.
Yeah,
So that's an internal one with our stuff. As I said, look, we're meeting fortnightly, myself, the Deputy Disaster Coordinator and the Disaster Officer, along with Graham there, things like pen stocks, making sure the pumps are right in preparedness. So we've got a standing fortnightly meeting, so we can do that as an exercise because during the event, it's the Disaster Officer Gemma and her team, and she's actually done a lot of training over the last 12 months with a lot of our customer service people, we can do an exercise. So it doesn't need to go to the LDMG.
But what about because what I want to do is just, it's almost like we're having one and we've pegged out the areas and who's contacting what. So wouldn't we want to have like Les there and so forth from that area so we can work out who's what?
So in an event, worst case you have a flood. The way it rolls out is under that plan, everyone's got their actions. So Les, they do with the evacuations and our stuff to them, but that one is actually one that we do. SES don't get involved in the ringing around. They help people evacuate, but what the part of the plan that we are testing is the bit where we actually go through the triggers. The way I see it happening is, okay, when we get to 7.1, okay, we start ringing these people, and at 7.2 we ring these because we know that this bridge gets cut off at 7.5, and so we'll just run through the scenarios of the river heights and how we go, and then checking the list of people that we've got, and then basically also contacting them, making sure that we've still got the current contacts, and also going for a bit of a drive because, as I said, there's probably 2 or 3 new houses up there as well. They don't get flooded, but they do get cut off, so we still actually notify them to say the bridge is going to go under at 7.5, so we're now at 7.2, so you've got an hour or 2 to get back to town, and so we can run the exercise. I think it's worthwhile, Mr Mayor. We can do the exercise, make sure it works.
Because that's what I'm really pushing is that we've actually done it, and to be able to do the exercise, and then if we have to pull partners in, pull them in just for their knowledge as well, So, because if they've got to go and pull them out, if we do have to get them pulled out, what do they know that we don't know?
No, I see what you're saying. Yeah, but in terms of those heights, in developing the plan, when it went to the LDMG, we circulated it to Les and to Benno and all those guys there, and it's just really making sure that we're targeting the right people. Concerns is you might have 95% of the people there on your contact list, but you hate to miss someone. That's all. So.
Yeah, and if we ground truth it by going for a drive
Yeah.
and having a look.
Yep. No, that's why I said yeah.
Okay, so if no one else wishes to speak, we're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 6-0. L9 Roma Neighbourhood Centre. I've got a question. I was just wanting to know you know, because we laid this on the table just to see if it was illegal, what I was going to move, did we get any advice on that?
Yes, Mr Mayor. So the advice is, the best way to set it up is to set it up as as like an incorporated association. So it would be set up very similar to how other not-for-profit
Yep,
groups are set
correct.
up. So council would have the same conflict of interest as they would dealing with others. Probably one that jumps to mind, something like the Butter Factory in Roma, where it's a council facility. The lease is with the Roma Historical Precincts Group. So if you were on the executive, you would have a conflict of interest because you would be dealing directly with council in regard to that lease. But if you're a committee member, you wouldn't have the conflict. So you would have to deal with it, or councillors would deal with it in the same way as they would, I guess, any other incorporated association community group. Another one I'm thinking of is Mitchell RSL Combined Sports Club. It's fine. I understand it to be a member, but if you're on the executive, it's where it triggers. It's the same
It
kind of
does,
setup.
yeah. But my question was, like, if council sends a representative, and that's what I was sort of more thinking the legal advice was, if council made a decision to send these, then they don't have a conflict. And I was just wondering, you know, like for instance, if we say to send someone as a representative on a body, we don't have a conflict.
And going through that same example that Tanya gave there of the combined group at Mitchell there, previous council there, council sent Councillor Flynn down as the representative, and he didn't have a conflict when we spoke about it because he was acting as a councillor representative. He he wasn't on the executive. He was actually just he would go along as council representative to the meeting, but he didn't actually hold a position, and he wasn't actually a member of the actual group. So he went there as a representative to represent council and bring back any views, but he wasn't on the committee at all. Didn't hold membership.
So is that the trigger, is whether they're on the committee of it? I mean, I know the trigger is when you, like you've got you're on the executive, that's when it got the conflict. But if you're a member, you wouldn't, but...
So it's, I guess, you know, as councillors, you've probably done a lot more training on conflict of interest than what I've done as a staff member, but that's my understanding of it. It's going to be set up, if it's set up as it'll be set up as a standalone incorporated association. So it would be just like if you went to join another committee. The trigger's more when you're in the executive rather than if you're a member who goes along and helps out at working bees. It's more if you're on the executive.
So did we get advice on, we got advice I see on, you know, how to set it up and that, but...
Yep.
But, so did they come back and say it triggers all the normal things if you're on the executive,
Yes,
even if council sets
I
it up?
sent another email today, just in regard to the specific questions. So I just asked specifically about if councillors were on the executive and I can send that through to you if you like, or through to the councillors.
150EO, 1B, what is not a declarable conflict of interest. If the conflict of interest arises solely because the councillor undertakes an engagement in the capacity of councillor for a community group, sporting club or similar organisation and is not appointed as an executive officer of the organisation. And then 2, the councillor or related party, the councillor is a member or patron, etc., and is not appointed as an executive officer of the organisation.
So then the issue, because in this motion, I don't think I actually had as president or anything. So in here,
Yeah, you said mayor and council be a council representative on the newly formed committee.
so it would newly formed association.
But when you form, have you got people to join this?
No, I know there's people out there that would like to solve some of the issues that we've got, so.
But who's going to chair, like who is going to be the chair or president of it? Because all of those roles are included, and secretary, and that included in the registration of the association.
Yeah, that's right.
So it sounds very similar to the historical precincts, wasn't it? So were you the president there, Mr Mayor, and Councillor Edwards the secretary or treasurer or something?
Yeah, but this is encompassing the building and also dealing with the crime issues and the,
Structure.
This structure-wise,
it was an incorporated
it was an
body.
incorporated body,
Yeah.
so same
The only
concept.
thing is, it wasn't, what I was wondering is if council sent people as a representative, why would they have a conflict? Other than, that was just something, nothing to do with council that was formed, was formed as a separate thing, so.
That's my understanding, this is a separate thing, a new incorporated body.
Oh yeah, a new incorporated body that we'd give the lease of if this got up.
So who's
The
paying
difference-
for the incorporated body? Didn't we get a price on that?
It depends whether we do it internally or we get someone to do everything to do with it.
Well, in here, you propose that council create an incorporated body.
Yeah.
Is that still the?
So
what you're
internal
thinking?
staff to do that, yes.
And I think that's the crux,
Yes.
that council is going to form an incorporated body. Like, normally this request would come from a community group and
then
come
you
up,
would-
and they want to
then-
form it, and they're coming to council, the group's coming to council, they're asking for council's assistance in helping form the group, but it's coming from the group up, and there's other community members' names attached. The only person's names attached to this resolution is yours, Mr Mayor. It's actually coming from the mayor down, and it's the mayor wanting to form an incorporated body, which then becomes a bit of a grey area, I
Shouldn't it
feel.
be somebody coming to us, asking us for the neighbourhood centre as a lease?
And wanting to
Got
form,
that wrong?
because they want to form a
Yeah.
group
And then further could ask
for
for
representative council.
representatives from
Absolutely.
council.
To
But
be
it's
honest.
you're asking council to form a group to put you on it.
Correct.
That's the grey.
Yeah, and
That's what I raised down Yuba.
and then we start to get into close associate territory because close associate is an entity other than a government entity for which the councillor is an executive officer or board member. So
I just don't know why the council are gonna propose to set up an incorporated body. That's the part that I can't understand.
Oh, well, that's actually driving it, and I think there's other situations where council has driven other things to start, and then they went on their way, so I think it's quite reasonable to do that. Probably the only difference is would be to take out the committee. So 2 is council approve the mayor and councillor, and a councillor be council representatives on the newly formed incorporated body, because then there's basically, you can declare that and stay in the room for that, because you're not.
But there is no newly formed committee, that's
No,
the issue.
but this is, the plan is to instigate that, and if it's,
Wouldn't you come to council with the committee, like have it there and then they come and ask?
no, this is about us incubating something to happen that will deal with an issue for the community. So what we've heard is that there's a conflict if you're on the committee of that association. But if you're a council representative, as it was said by Councillor Flynn was, then they can go there, and
and
there's,
bearing in mind that was a different conflict of
That's
interest
really not-
regime from
That's,
years ago.
that's not
as
really
well.
my issue. My issue is that
So
we are,
October onwards.
that we're driving it when it should be community driving it.
no, we're,
And help them, yes, I'm all for helping them, but they should be coming to the table.
no, we're setting it up and then having a public meeting to have people that are interested in driving it.
Oh, they're having a public meeting.
Yeah, definitely. That's, you have to, for an association to start an association, you have to have a public meeting
Oh.
to do it. But we are the ones to enable that to happen, and then the rest of the resolution is as you see there.
alternative resolution which may achieve what you're looking to achieve with some tweaking. So the alternative resolution is that council undertake consultation. So it could be something in the community where you say, anyone who's interested in getting the neighbourhood centre going again, come along. That might get you your group of people that you then can form the committee. It could be an outcome of that consultation that, you know, this group of people said we'd like to set up an incorporated association. And then council will also need to allocate some money in a budget towards the cost. We do have the quotation there. It's going to cost between $16,000 and $20,000 for the setup costs, and there isn't sufficient funds in the legals budget at the moment for that. So that would have to be, you know, set up as a special project in the budget.
Yeah, and that's sort of the much more expensive end of doing it, and that's obviously getting someone to do it. But I would be looking that we would start it internally.
163.
So when you say internally, does that mean yourself and Councillor Edwards, or?
No, the staff, that, you know, that we can fill out forms. I'm sure in our organisation we can get forms filled out for starting an incorporated body, getting a set of model rules, so forth, and then we would go out to the community and said, who wants to be on this? So, you know, much the same as we've done with other things where we've had that.
Can you give me an example, Mr Mayor? What other thing? Could you give me an example so I can understand what we're mirroring?
Yeah, no, I don't want to talk about them in case there's any conflicts. But yeah, the idea is that we'd use our resources to do an incorporated body, and then we'd call for people that would like to be involved, and we would get it up and running. So.
But whose name went? If we're going to set the incorporation up and then call for the people,
No,
whose name?
we're approving that we will use council's resources to help set the body up, and then the body will be definitely. It's an incorporated body. It has its own set of rules.
I think you got the chicken and the egg around the wrong way here. At the moment, it sounds like there's only 2 people that want this, right? And you're telling me there isn't, which I believe you. But at the moment, the only only information we've got in front of us is that yourself and Councillor Edwards want to set up this association. It needs to. My advice would be to go out there and understand who else there is and bring that back to council, because then there's more meat on the bone to make a financial decision as to who wants to be involved in the, you know, association that you want to set up.
And what other needs they might have and they might bring to the table.
Well, I believe that's the best use of the building, is to do this and then have an incorporated body. They can run it. They've got some, in our lease would be some requirements for us for what they have to achieve. But the incorporated body, and we would just have some representatives, and we would fast track making sure. We've already probably had 12 months delayed down the road in doing something. This is the way to fast track it.
Mr Mayor, you're not interested in Manager Tanya's resolution, alternative one?
Up on
Because
the
that
screen
still
there.
covers that.
Yeah, up on the screen.
And that way, yeah, you'll get a gauge on who wants to.
That's why you were pointing at the screen,
Yeah,
Rob.
correct. Yeah,
Sorry.
I was sort of, with Michelle there, that's why we're going like this up and down, trying to find the resolution. That's the alternate one there. As I said, to looking at establishment of the incorporated body, just having
Ticks
that
the boxes
consultation.
and get a report back on the financial part of it as well.
That second point, council, doesn't look into spending that large amount of money with a solicitor to do it. Still leaves you a bit of freedom there to investigate other ways of doing it, but just saying that there may be some dollars, but that's not locking you into that, to using a solicitor at all. Gives you that flexibility that you're after.
And I assume when you said the conflict of interest you're talking about is the Country University Centre, there's no conflict here, if that's the one you're referring to.
No, but there was another one that was skating on the line that I would have had a conflict before, so there is few in the room.
So I just wonder, maybe it's worthwhile in the not too distant future, if that's the case, Councillor Burkett, you give a rundown from your perspective how things might work with what happens in.
I can't, but
You can if there's not a decision.
you're right. We can make a decision to ask you to do that. There are provisions in the Act to allow that. Same with the...
This is
I
a
kn-
completely separate topic. This
Yeah.
is about the Roma neighbourhood.
No, I accept that, but
You
the
should
mayor's
look at mirroring-
entered, and I think it's fair to suggest that there has been other examples that have been, have gone through council. Well, let's provide that as background, right? Not now, at some other point, just to share what has happened.
Because those decisions are in the past.
In the past, they're gone.
So
Yeah.
they're gone. That's not an issue of today. It's more, what was the process followed to seek interest, and step through the process. What the mayor has proposed was the end of the process, not the beginning of the process.
I think that,
And what manager
I think
tenure
that's
has
covers it.
perfect.
So, well, I'll move something, that council undertake consultation led by the mayor to gauge support for the establishment of an incorporated body to manage the Roma Neighbourhood Centre as a service delivering programs to benefit the local community. 2, after reviewing the outcome of the consultation process, consider allocating funding to the second quarter budget review to establish the incorporated body or other opportunities to do this in-house. Okay.
Which will still have a cost attached somewhere on a work order number, I
Yeah,
assume.
definitely, yeah. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Burkett, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it?
I just got a question.
Please
So
go
the
ahead.
consultation led by, you mean just putting out an advertisement to say we're going to hold a meeting on this day in relation to the neighbourhood centre, all come along and let's have a talk about it?
Yep.
That's what you're looking at doing, isn't it?
And I'd talk to stakeholders that I believe would be beneficial, that would be interested in being involved, that are into community, and get them to come along, or just say that they want to be involved. So it could come back as far as the information that we've gleaned, because this is very urgent, so I want to do this quickly and get a result. I believe we need this next year up and running quickly.
But then, my question, why does this need to come to council? You could just do that.
No, I think it's better to have and obviously, all councillors are welcome. We come and have the meeting, and then we just do that.
No,
So-
but there is nothing stopping you doing that as
No,
a
that's
civic
right,
leader.
but we don't have access to the building, and this would mean that we can have it down there. I would want to have it at the neighbourhood centre, so it's just approving that. I'll speak for the motion. I believe we've been delayed quite a lot, and I want to move working on the future. I believe there's a lot of programs that we can do down at the neighbourhood centre, as well as a lot of community groups that can have beneficial use of the 23 rooms that are there. I believe there's a way that we can reinvest any revenue back into the facility where it's not going to cost council any money long term. I believe it's a win-win for the community, and I think we need to fast track this to happen as quick as possible. Does anyone wish to speak against the motion or for the motion? Then we're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? 6-1 if I can call for a division. Item L10, water restrictions review update.
Mr Mayor, this is the one that was laid on the table down at Surat. The reason it was laid on the table was that the recommendation was right. It was pointed out in the actual policy, it still used the word restriction rather than water scheduling. And so Graham was asked to go back and make the policy reflect the resolution. So to do away with the word restrictions and replace it with water scheduling, which is what he's done. So
We still have
Restrictions on the knowledge.
on the top.
I'll out the other one the other
still got
day.
water restriction.
He has updated and asked him to email that on
Yes, I've
Tuesday.
read it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so it was emailed out on Tuesday. So I don't know why that's one's. Yeah, because the reason it's in that was it was laid on the table.
the old
So it was laid on the table, so
It's
the
a
report.
recommendation that's going to change it, isn't it?
Yes, correct. But you just wanted to see the actual updated plan. So because the report was laid on the table, the report reappears in your agenda. The actual updated policy is actually circulated on
We'll just
Tuesday.
need to break and make sure that everyone's got the printed.
But that was circulated end of last week or so. Yeah,
But it was sent through, I'm pretty sure.
it was sent through.
What
Yeah.
date was it sent through?
It could have been on Friday actually, because I had a meeting with Graham on Tuesday, which was yesterday, and he said, "No, I've already sent that went to the councils like you said on
Yesterday, wasn't
no, probably Friday, I think, Mr.
Oh,
Mayor.
he's got water schedule policy yesterday.
Yeah, so it's gone out, councillors.
Yeah. and it has
But this
changed.
matter was laid on the table, so you've got
Schedule.
basically the report that was laid on the table in front of you.
Yeah.
But you have got the updated one.
Yesterday I wouldn't have got it, I don't think.
Yeah. So that has been updated there. You've got it
Yeah,
there.
it's, yeah.
I've got a question on this one. Can we make the first one a heads up rather than, I noticed we've got different notices.
What page?
So when we go to, we've got, I think, three things we do.
We did it on page 165.
3 dot points there. Near the bottom of page 165. Advisory notice, caution notice, infringement. That was out of the.
Advisory's a heads up.
That's it.
Just heads up. That was the wording that was used at the briefing session we had a few months ago, where council gave us the feedback. That's what you wanted. So,
But if we want to put in a heads up, just to let you know.
That is the heads up.
That's what advisory is, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think it's pretty harsh. Whereas I think if we had it where it's some way that it's not so, because when people get something from council, it's a bit freaky sometimes. So how we can soften that to just give you a heads up. Oh, I didn't know, we're not meant to be watering today.
Well,
Righto.
they're just advising, makes the customer aware of the fact that there are restrictions and details to approved days and hours of watering, so they're just going along making them aware, so it doesn't matter what you call it, it's the delivery from staff which is going to be the crux of it. If you go in there all guns blazing, you're going to put them offside. If you just go and say, oh, excuse me mate, you might be aware but this is the case. So I don't think it matters
But
what it's called.
in how many times we couldn't do that first, because people that are doing the wrong thing will keep doing it. They're
You'll
not
probably
gonna-
find some neighbours will even do that. It might even escalate that neighbours will
So
remind.
councillors, maybe the word is, if you're a bit concerned about the word advisory, maybe call it a reminder notice.
Just remember, Rob, that the Deputy CEO, Rob, that we've already got with community safety advisory notices, and we're trying to standardise the terminology there. And the community's used to that.
It's like an advisory for a meeting too, like it's a pretty common word nowadays. Like.
I wouldn't like to change it without.
No, that's fair enough. It was advisory out of the briefing session. I just felt that they would.
But
Who's
can
gonna
we
get
put a
over
heads up in front of that? Have that process? Are we allowed to?
In practice, how does that look? Take us through. What is it?
Okay, so you're driving past and you see, gee, they shouldn't be watering. They just go and say, g'day, do you know it's Thursday, not Friday or whatever? Is your watering day for this number? And then they just go and do that, and then next week they're doing it again, so they get an advisory notice, right? But it's just a heads up without any scary, because people get a piece of paperwork from council and they go, look what I got from council. It's not like they can take it badly. Eh?
What do they do when they get one from the taxman?
Well, we're not responsible for that, Councillor Taylor, thank goodness.
I don't think they care.
But it's just, because the idea is, yeah, anyway.
Three councils, advisory, caution, and then the infringement. I just asked.
I'll just, we may as well break for lunch and then we'll get a copy of that.
Yeah, but can we just make sure we have the open? And I've got another question on this as well. So whether
Oh, do you want to ask it now so they
Can I?
staff can,
I just want to double check. I notice on page 170 that the winter watering schedule, so it's in winter, for everywhere else is that, you know, you got your odd and even numbers and they do it on different days, but they can water at any time of the day. Then I notice in the Surat one that in winter, that they've got their days, but that they've actually got a watering time attached.
They've got an extra day.
I just want to know the reason behind that, and it may just be about the allocation and keeping with the allocation.
And Surat, unlike everywhere else, they've got a very tight allocation down there. So
Yep.
it's about, if you say water all day,
In
any
winter,
time, you're
yep.
going to run into problems with the allocation. So it's purely about the allocation.
It's about the allocation.
And it's
Yep.
historic.
Yes.
Like there has always, but when we first brought in the winter summer thing years ago, Surat was different because of the raw water. So yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was about the allocation, but I just still wanted to ask the
All right,
question.
councillors, I sense that you're going to lay that one on the table late in the meeting, but if I can point out, you've only got one left in the open, and you have got the officers sitting here. If you want to deal with that quickly, Mr Mayor, I don't know how long it's going to take, but it was that one there, and it's the last one. So,
Yeah.
On the panel?
not yet, haven't.
No, I was going to.
We can do that, councillors. It'll be the. Yeah, that's okay. It's been there 6 months.
Look at after lunch. We'll go. Has anybody? No one's got
yeah,
any more
just-
questions, have they?
Governance officer Michelle, with her other hat, has just raised another matter as well.
Can we just lay it on the table, and if we
Until
don't
a
get to it
future
today,
time.
well, yeah, just lay it on the table.
I'll move. We lay it on the table.
This one?
Yeah. The water restriction.
It might come back.
Righto. Till so you're not saying when. So right. All those in favour? 7-0.
Yeah, we are.
No. So the last meeting's going to be able to do that.
It might come back. So,
I'm just sending a copy for discussion over lunch.
Over lunch, yeah.
L11, update on access gate to Roma Saleyards. We've got the Roma director here. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, this is in response to last council meeting where there was a request for a quotation for an access gate into the main pen area, which is just adjacent to the new building that's been put in there for some time now. I put a couple of photos attached to the report that you could see where that area was.
Yep.
The things that we've probably got to talk about in there is that at this point in time, there's not enough height to just easily go in there and reinstate the gate. There's only about 1,550 mils of clearance, where Australian standard says we need 2 metres of head height.
Yep. We
We do have, just running quickly through what I've said in that report, we do have a project going there to refurbish or redo the auctioneer walks that are adjacent to the building, that they're starting to move out of what is now compliant. And what that will allow us potentially do is to look at the issue of whether we can actually gain more height by way of like a semi-fly, which is like on the next set of walk decks over, to get the height that we could then get clearance underneath that. Unfortunately, that wasn't achievable in time for this meeting, and I just wanted to be able to put that forward to you on what the ideas are here and how we might then be able to get some pricing for that to occur.
Yeah, when I asked for move the motion anyway, it was about that we would have to do a crossover or whatever you want to, so there's enough height there, you know, because I know different people have been asking for it since it's been built, so you've only just come into it, but it's been going on for quite a long time, so their patience is running out, I believe. So is there an ability to get a price on if we lift in the walkway up?
Yes, Yes, there will be. The thing that we need to look at though, and I want to preempt, is that you will notice in photo 3 that I attached to the report that the building roof structure is very close to the current auctioneer decks.
Mm.
The way that we actually do that elevation up to be able to get over will not be able to be a long way out on that one side to have it that it's not actually impeding the walkway with the roofing structure. and that people have the ability then to hit the roofing structure as they are walking along the deck.
Yep.
So we need to be able to understand what gradient that we can put on the rise, if I can call it that, because we've really only got about the half of 1 width of a pen to do that. That's a guesstimate. That we're still going to be compliant in what we would do by having those lifts will probably determine whether we can actually get the head height underneath. So it's probably looking at a few of those issues together. I know that it's not as quickly as what we would have liked to have been able to bring back to you, but we need to be able to probably able to consider that as well. The other thing that I can give you in that is that, yes, we've already been talking about the decks replacement and starting to talk to procurement, and these conversations will be part of that.
It makes sense to do it all together, yeah. It's messing with my OCD, that building not parallel with the walkway yards. Anyway.
What about, do we have any ability to take it down lower rather than?
Mayor, look, we are looking at that as well, that the retaining wall that's in the front there might actually be able to be like either set back in a little bit closer to the building. The thing that we're still going to be looking at is that what will be the drop-off going down to that? Will it be a step? Can it be a ramp? Because I think that the other thing is that if it's a ramp, we're dropping about 350 odd mil from ground level to the current retaining wall height, which is slightly less than floor level height where the concrete currently stands. So we would need to be able to see what we can actually put in there as well, whether we will get that 2 metre minimum clearance head height. I see that as probably the biggest issue. But yes, we are most certainly looking at those options on whether the retaining wall could be brought back to then give us that bit more ease of clearance.
Yeah. I know, Deputy Director Cameron was involved with the building with its issues out there, so I don't know what the connection is with the retaining wall.
It seems to be a minor retaining wall. Like, I think it's more about predominantly holding soils and things like that back on the grassed area adjacent.
Yeah.
I'm not a structural engineer, so I'm not going to get too involved in that. But I think that there is ability to look at that retaining wall being brought back if that's an option to ultimately that's needed to do that, to provide that service back.
Yep. Righto. Okay.
Yeah, and apologies, that's probably about the best that I could put together at short notice. So.
Yeah, righto.
So we would go forward from there. As I said, we're already starting to look at how the procurement for the auctioneer decks will go, and then come back once we've got some more information on that, then about the gate at the same time.
Any questions, councillors?
I'll move that if you like, Mr Mayor.
Please go ahead.
I'd like to move the council consider an interim update report from the local area director.
Probably note.
Oh, there we go. That one, council note the interim update report from the local area director, Roma. 2, upon further investigations, a further report be provided at a meeting of council on the proposed installation of an access gate at the Roma Saleyards for consideration.
We have a seconder, Councillor Taylor. Also, do we have enough flexibility there if the mover and seconder wants that, if it can't be there, where close by can it be? Is there?
Well, just, sorry, going on the map, the aerial shot I'm looking at now, there is a concrete ramp going on a 45, same plane as the roof line, but it goes to a full pen. It doesn't go to where the other ones are designated, like looks like a walkway. So it might be a fair bit of structural work to shift things around, and so probably not.
See what they come back with.
Yeah, it'll all come back in the wash, I suppose.
I certainly take that under advisement through you, Mayor, if there's not an option to do it there, where there's another section that we can go through. Because at the moment there is a structural beam even above the gateway to actually hold the fly decks in place. The fly deck, the auctioneer decks will actually, believe it will have a slightly different mounting assembly once we replace them. But yeah, I think that there will be a lot of work that if we couldn't actually put it in where it was existing.
Because it might even be right down the end. It mightn't be perfect, but down, you know, like, I don't know, but obviously look at different options.
As long as the agent's happy.
So we have a mover and a seconder. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 7-0. We'll break for lunch. So do we have anyone to go into closed?
Get everyone jumping.
What are we doing? You go, John.
Okay, so that's just your little, okay, well, I'm happy to move into close. In accordance with the provisions of section 254J3 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the council resolved to close the meeting to the public and discuss confidential items that its councillors consider it necessary to close the meeting. In accordance with section 254J5 of the Local Regulation 2012, the following table provides the matters to be discussed, an overview of what is to be discussed with the meeting while the meeting is closed. So you've just broken them down now. I don't have to go through the table, so that's still no, all good. No, that's it. C1, Australian Government Local Roads and Community Infrastructure Program Phase 3. C2, application for funding under Queensland Government 2022-23 Walking Local Government Grants Program. C3, application for funding under Queensland Government 2022-23 Cycle Network Local Government Grants Program. C4, claim for damages water. C5, Wallumbilla Heritage Association relocation of 1200 diesel train. LC1, application for rating concession assessments 130130024, 130130032, 120110102, 130130099, 130130008, 120130090, 130141196, 130141162, 1450795 and 1501408 LC2 tender 22014 Injured Heritage Museum construction. LC3 request for quotation flood damage event 12 drainage and other civil works. LC4 appointment of interim chief executive officer. LC5 Miss Campbell Street culvert upgrade project. LC6 passenger fees Roma Airport. LC7 request for reduction of planning application fees, file reference 2021/20470. LC8 employee code of conduct.
No, not the last one, sorry. That'll be the next meeting now.
Sorry. Oh. All good?
Okay. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 7-0. Okay, do we have a conflict?
I do, Mr Mayor.
Please go ahead.
So LC3, request for quotation, flood damage, event 12, drainage and other civil works. I'm the declaring councillor, Councillor Julie Guthrie. I'm the person with the concern because I own rural land located on Gunawan Road, which is referenced in this report and listed as being considered for the road repair works. I would like to advise that it's a declarable conflict of interest and I'd like to leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on.
Okay, thank you. Any other conflicts?
Well,
Councillor Guthrie won't be able to go.
Yeah, good. Girl's got to go back in. She needs to be in
Depends
there
if
for
there's
that.
any other conflicts.
No, but she needs to be in here for to go back in there.
Closed.
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 And they say Roma Southern Road. Go to the page, so I'll declare.
Please go ahead, Councillor Taylor.
Sorry, Michelle, but I've got There's nothing on mine.
Oh, you got one too?
Well, I didn't see it there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Check and see what, and then we'll-
Roma Southern Road, isn't that a state road? Is it a state road, Deputy Director?
Yeah, correct, Mr Mayor. So some flood damage there with main roads. So.
Yeah, so do we, is that through RMPC or is it?
Through flood damage, yeah, with the state government.
So we do it on their road, sort of?
In some instances, yeah, like you're right, under RMPC to a degree, like we're given the responsibility to look after the roads. So.
Right, okay. That's
All
why.
right, I'm sorry about that. I didn't even see that. So it's on LC3. The title is Request for Quotation, Flood Damage Event 12, Drainage and Other Civil Works. The declaring council is myself, Wendy Taylor. The person of interest is myself. I live on Southern Road, and it too is named in the report. The action I'll take is I'll leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on.
She'll email it to you.
Sorry?
She couldn't hear you. You'll have to email it. No, just email it to her.
I didn't do it. I only just did it.
No, but when you get around to it.
You could nearly just change mine.
We'll see video. Yes.
It's exactly the same.
Righto. Any other conflicts? Do we have someone to move into closed?
Oh, we've got to go back. Do we have to go back through all that stuff? We don't, do we?
You've already said it once, haven't you?
I'll move we go into closed.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 7-0. LC4, appointment of interim CEO, be considered next. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? 6-3 and I'll call for a division. 4-3 and I'll call for division.
Was it LC4?
4-3. LC4, appointment of interim CEO. I would like to move that council request pre-recruitment to advertise position of interim chief executive officer of up to 12 months from the 25th, advertise the position from the 25th of November, which is Thursday the 25th of November, to Sunday the 28th of November, with resumes of applicants being sent to council on Monday the 29th of November, with the appointment of the interim CEO to be considered at a special meeting the 1st of December, special meeting on the Wednesday the 1st of December. And then 2, the Mayor be authorised to liaise with pre-recruitment in general and to give details of, i.e. total recruitment package, TRP, based as current position, and package for as the interim position. So do you need that to type it out?
We should let somebody know it's going to be late.
Okay. Do you want me to read it again?
No.
We've got to record it in. Okay, do we have a seconder for that motion?
We need to see the motion because it's changed to what was in front of us and what was discussed.
Right, I read it out, but I'm happy to type it up.
What if we went to Bassett Park and come back? It's a bit rude. I said, what if we went to Bassett Park and came back? Oh, but then we've got staff.
We might be able to defer the other items till next Wednesday.
It's gonna be a big day next Wednesday, isn't it?
No, I've done all the close, so it's only open. The decision making is not normally takes the time.
Do you think someone should make a phone call and just let them know that we're going to run late?
Oh, did he?
But I don't know what he's told them.
I don't know who's going.
There's a list on the calendar.
Oh, there is too.
I'd like to go after we do this one.
You're going home tonight?
Someone gonna
You ring alarm? Or
just message and say that yous are coming.
give us 10 minutes or something, do you think?
Yep.
Should the chips one be done
Is your
today?
juice going? Is
Oh,
your
do you
juice
want some?
okay? No, I'm just gonna start packing up because I'm gonna run the moment.
Thank you.
Lord.
It was 100% this one. I don't know why I lose so
I
much
just
juice.
choose.
While we're waiting for that, councillors, is there any that have to be done today that you know?
I was just thinking the chips one maybe, I don't know.
Well, probably from now till next Wednesday is not going to make a huge difference, I don't think. It's less than a week. Or it's a week, I
Let's
should
just
say.
get this one done because I've got to get cracking.
Okay.
Excuse me, Deputy CEO Rob. You didn't ring those guys, did you? No.
I was on the phone with Jackson. Sorry.
I messaged Alana, but
Yeah,
if they're all
they're going to
together,
go out after this.
where were they meeting? Because there's about 3 entrants.
Deputy CEO, we're dealing with this matter and then the Mayor's thinking about laying the rest on the table to next week. Is there anything that you need us to deal with?
Sorry, Sharon, you've got your agendas, your rating on there, Sharon, I think that's urgent.
Does that have to be done today?
Well, I think they've paid it now, so probably could wait till next Wednesday.
Council 14.1, that's on the table, we can do that next meeting, or next week, if you. We've made that 4.2 was going to be laid on there. You've dealt with all your late items. So it's just the confidential really, isn't it?
So Michelle in the first line position.
Yeah, I'll just check with Cam about those funding ones.
Just
rate
change,
one?
just take out
Oh.
request.
I'll just check with Cam about those funding applications there, or that tender.
And the 25th of November, need to, yeah, that's right, from 20th of November, Sunday. So just shift to, Oh, yeah, put Thursday in there. Yeah, that's it. With, where's where are the applicants being sent? Yeah, that's good. Yep. Pardon?
In there, LC5, probably the only one that can meet.
Okay. LC5.
And LC3.
Righto, November with the appointment
Yep.
of interim CEO to be at a special meeting on the 1st of December.
LC3, LC5 councillors can meet, and then
LC3 and LC5.
and if you wish to deal with that in June heritage one, that's up to council. If you want to do that one today.
Is the week going to affect it majorly?
Not really, like, it'll affect the bringing up and starting to talk to a contractor, but
Yeah.
it's a week. So.
Righto. Okay, so we got that up there. This way. So can you just put in there appointment of interim CEO to be at the special meeting? Okay, I'm going to read it again. Okay, that Council 1 engage pre-recruitment to advertise the position of Interim Chief Executive Officer for up to 12 months from Thursday 25th of November to Sunday 28th of November, with resumes of the applicants then being sent to Council on Monday the 29th of November, with the appointment of the Interim Chief Executive Officer to be dealt with at a special meeting of Council on Wednesday the 1st of December 2021. And 2, the Mayor be authorised to liaise with pre-recruitment in general to give details of the total recruitment package, TRP, based on the current position and package for this interim position. So, okay. Now, do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbrook,
I have a question.
please go ahead.
So, Mr Mayor, what is the details of the recruitment package? Because we haven't discussed that as a council.
So what I'm saying there is it'll be in line with what there is now. So we would get the details and then pass on the basic remuneration, and the basics would be as the same as the recruitment package. So people need to know. So it would be the same. Okay.
And my second question is, Mr Mayor, have you discussed the recruitment package and the interim CEO with the Unity Maranoa team
No,
prior to this meeting?
I don't talk to Unity Maranoa anymore. That is not something that I talk to. We don't have Unity Maranoa meetings or anything.
Oh.
So
Community has told me different, but I'm just wondering how do we come up with the package? Like, don't you think who's agreeing that is the same package that we're going to go out
well,
with?
we're going to decide this, whether it is the same package as what it is now. And we're either going to decide that or we're not going to decide that.
Well, we haven't looked at the package. We're just going to decide whether you get to present the package,
No,
not what
the package
is.
would be, if it's approved, will be the same as what there is now. And I'm sure that you know what that is.
Well, actually, I actually don't. Actually don't. Is housing included?
No, it's the same as now. So what there is now. So I'm not suggesting anything more than what there is now.
So I don't. Does councillors know what the package is?
I'm just assuming it's the same as the Director CEO, that sort of.
But do we actually know what that is?
It's the same as what council is paying at the moment.
Well, we do, because in the back of the actual contract that the CEO, that we've got access to, is
What's actually included in all the package?
on the back page of the contract.
Okay, so we have a mover and a second. Do we have any opposition to the motion? Does the mover wish to speak to the motion? I certainly think that this is in line with us performing, and we've got a big responsibility as councillors, and I think this is in the best interest of the local government. Does anyone wish to speak against the motion? Councillor Taylor.
I'd just like to say that on L4 of the agenda, it was to appoint pre-recruitment via local buy. So I guess this is what this is, but I don't understand how that's possible when you wouldn't have known the outcome of L4. But now here we are with 4 names on a piece of paper to say that they have put their hand up to be interim CEO. I just want to know on what authority and what budget we did the recruitment agency when we engaged them. Why would we have a 12-month contract? And again, we are told that it's in council's best interest. Well, who's to say that? Why wouldn't it be in the best interest to appoint the deputy CEO in the interim? I'm sure we have a process to go through to select a new CEO. Not that we have discussed it yet, but I'm assuming that we will get involved with that decision. To say I'm surprised with this motion is an understatement. Again, it's come from left field without any discussion as far as I'm aware. So I won't be supporting this motion.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak for the motion or against the motion? Councillor Hancock.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I won't be supporting this. I don't believe we've had a proper discussion, had the opportunity actually to have a proper discussion about the employing the CEO. I don't understand why we're even looking at short-term. First of all, I don't understand why we're actually appointing a CEO when we already have a CEO. Essentially, we will have 2 CEOs, so therefore I question who holds the delegation and the responsibility of this organisation when we're actually going to have 2 CEOs of this organisation. That's a bit confusing. I don't understand about the short-term position of appointing a CEO. I don't understand why it's 12 months and why it's not, I believe the last contract was 5 years, so I don't understand why it's not that and it's only 12 months. You know, it seems that we're looking at, our vision is very short-term. We've employed 8 directors short-term, 3 to 6 months contract. We're now looking at employing a CEO short-term, 12-month contracts. Are we as a council only looking for short-term vision? Where is the long-term vision of this council? I don't understand it. I don't understand this thinking of short-term, and I don't understand the reasoning before it, and I don't understand the benefits of the financial implications this is going to have for this organisation. What I do understand is the financial impact is going to be having that we're going to be paying for the organisation to have 2 CEOs, a deputy CEO who could have stood up in the interim when the CEO was on leave, and we're going to pay for 8 directors. So 2 CEOs, a deputy CEO, and 8 directors. That's the financial impact on this organisation. And let's talk about the ongoing of the packages. The packages, what about the housing? When it's short term, the housing they've got to be furnished. What about the cars? Are we offering the cars? Are they having cars? What is those implications and what is the financial implications that go with that? For a short-term vision, this is going to cost this council a lot of money when we're only looking short-term. And I don't believe that is a responsible decision of council. I just am appalled that that this has come again left field. We haven't had the discussion. I thought we'd have that opportunity to have a discussion on where that vision is. Mr Mayor, you must have a plan in your head about this vision. As an independent councillor, I don't know what that vision is. I'd really appreciate the opportunity for you to share that vision with us so that we can all be on the same page, because all I can see at the moment is short-term vision, which is not in the best interest of this council, in my opinion.
Does anyone wish to speak for the motion or against the motion? Councillor O'Neill.
I'll be speaking against on two bases. The first is that there is no greater decision that any board, or in our case a council, makes than the appointment of a CEO. I recognise that the last 18 months there have been some challenges in, personalities in this room. Looking forward though, we should be going out to seek a long-term appointee for the role of CEO. I don't subscribe to the argument that we need to have an interim CEO from March onwards. I certainly don't subscribe to the argument that we need an interim CEO while the current CEO is on leave from the 24th of December through until the 1st of March. Councillor Hancock has already touched on some questions around who ultimately has the decision-making powers and the responsibility. Where does that lie? I've never heard of having two CEOs. We have an acting CEO in place when we don't have a CEO, and that's the deputy CEO. I think what would be a better course of action is for a acting CEO to see us through till the end of March, and in the new year we have a proper, robust discussion about what we collectively want in the organisational leader of the council. At the moment, it's being dictated by the mayor. I don't agree with that. I think we should all have input as to the criteria and the characteristics that we want in our future CEO. And appointing someone for 12 months in an interim capacity, no one's explained to me why that's a good thing for the organisation. I just don't understand why would we be even exploring that. Based on that, there's no discussion around the financial implications of having, a CEO on leave and then an interim CEO. And so that's argument number one. Argument number two, as to why I won't be supporting this resolution this afternoon, is I do believe there is a systemic failure in the governance of this council. Mr Mayor, you don't have the authority to engage a firm, as you have pre-recruitment, to present a report to us that includes a list of names prior to the authority given to by council. You don't have the authority to do that. You don't have a delegation to do that. I question whether there has been a failure in provisions of the Act in which we have all taken an oath that we have to adhere by. There are certain principles of the Act that I gave my oath to on 3 occasions now, and that is transparent and effective processes and decision-making in the public interest and good governance of and by the local government. I don't believe this is good governance to see a resolution this morning to engage a firm, which was supported by the majority, I accept that, and then in the same agenda of today, we have a report from that particular firm detailing a list of candidates to fill the interim role. Now, I accept that the resolution that was provided in the report is different. You've amended that. But we received a report from yourself, Mr Mayor, off the backing of a document that was sent to you by a firm that was only agreed to engage this morning. The governance on this particular matter could not be poorer. And so on that basis, and the basis that we could appoint the acting CEO for the next 3 months, are the reasons why I will not be supporting this resolution today.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? I will just sum up and say that, please go ahead.
I do think it's a good idea to employ interim directors and CEO, because often employing people, you find out after you've employed them, they're not doing the job that you want. So that gives you time to get rid of them and get someone else. So I do think it's a good idea to have interim CEO and directors in that way. So if they don't perform, they go.
Mr Mayor, just one thing, just this decision's getting made next Wednesday, and I just want to point out there's 2 councillors that probably need to be here. That's one reason I think it's a good thing for next Wednesday, because we're missing 2 that should have input to this as well. So
Correct. I'll just sum up. I certainly got advice that bringing some research was not engaging anybody, and so I refute that as in line with the local government principles. I believe that the motion that has been put forward does really show good governance, and now we have to go to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? 4-3 if I can call for a division. We have a couple of others that need to be done. Yep, please go ahead. LC3, if we can deal with next. LC3, request for quotation
Mr.
flood.
Mayor, I've got a conflict for that one there.
Okay, we still got yeah, we have. Yep, please go ahead.
I've already declared it.
Yeah, did you want to just head out for that one? We're getting pretty thin on, we've got 5, so. LC3, request for quotation, flood damage, event 12, drainage and other civil.
Councillor Taylor has as well.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I've only just found it, sorry.
Oh, well, we don't have a quorum then.
So will I go?
You have to walk out.
If only Councillor Burke could stay for a couple more minutes.
So can we lay it on the table till next week, or do we have to delegate? We've got to delegate now.
There's no basis to lay it on the table. You can move to defer the decision until next week,
Right.
but you can't move to lay it on the
I
table.
think it's one of 10 needed doing, so I think you're better off referring it to the CEO.
Right. Can we,
So yeah, it's one of the ones that counts that we do need.
That's fine.
do you have some wording?
Yeah, she's coming.
We're looking at deferring the item because we didn't have a quorum.
Excuse me, Deputy CEO, do you know if any of the staff are going to their meeting at 5 o'clock tonight? Okay, thank you. Just wondering if someone was there, could text.
Okay,
So I'm happy to move. I'll move that in accordance with section 150 EU 2A of the Local Government Act 2009, the council delegate deciding the matter of the request of... That's not what I'm going to read out. Matter of request, that's deciding the matter of agenda item LC3, request for quotation, flood damage, event 12, drainage and other civil works, to the Chief Executive Officer, CEO, in accordance with section 2571B.
okay. We have a seconder, Councillor Hancock. Anybody wish to speak? Anybody opposed? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 6-0. Then we can do LC5 as it's been asked for.
109.
Thank you. 109, LC5, Miss Campbell Street Culvert Upgrade Project. Do we have a mover? Councillor Hancock.
I move that Council 1 note the current status of the project and discussions held to date with the landowners of 43 to 45 Miss Campbell Street, Roma, and 44 to 48 Miss Campbell Street, Roma. 2, delegate authority to the Chief Executive Officer, CEO, or delegate to A, progress with negotiating an agreement with the landholders for the acquisition of the land on suitable terms, generally in accordance with the valuations obtained by Council for this purpose and consistent with the recommendations set out in the Council Officer's report. And B, negotiate an agreement with the landowners for early access to the land to allow construction of the Miss Campbell drainage infrastructure upgrade to commence in accordance with Council's and Department of Transport and Main Roads Work Program. 3, allocate additional funds for property acquisitions as outlined in the report from Work Order 22869 to the Miss Campbell Street Culvert Upgrade Project.
Okay, do we have a second to Councillor Taylor? Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 6-0. Okay, I think they were the urgent ones. If you don't have any others, councillors, I'll adjourn the meeting till next Wednesday at a time to be fixed to deal with the rest of the items on the agenda. Okay, and we'll have a look at that around when we have the briefings and which is the best time. Okay, so I've adjourned the meeting at 5:19. Thank you for your attendance, councillors.